A very good morning, everyone. On behalf of Lieutenant General Sudhir Sharma, PVSM, AVSM, YSM, VSM, also our chairman and colleagues at MidCat Advisory, as well as our association partners, Futuristic Security and Automation Technologies, Asia Risk Community, and Global Risk Community, extend to you a very warm welcome to WISER 2022, that is Women in Intel Security and Resilience 2022. One of our association partners is WISER, which is a WhatsApp group comprising of women who are associated with security and intelligence. Any women who wish to join the group, kindly reach out to Aparna Gudat. She will be speaking in extension during her panel. My name is Madhura Chanda, and I am a geopolitical intelligence analyst at MidCat's Predictive Risk Intelligence Services. I will be hosting the event for you and today and ensure that everything runs smoothly and on time. So before proceeding further, I will just share my screen. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. So let me start by saying that security as a domain is very dynamic and challenging during the pandemic or before it. This year's theme of International Women's Day is Break the Bias, and we are proud to host an event in similar spirit just a week ahead of Women's Day. We may thrive for a world that offers equal opportunity devoid of gendered biases. However, the road to completely realize that vision is not an easy one. WISER 2022 provides a platform to discuss the risks and opportunities that lie in the field for women, as well as hear the industry leaders about their journeys and experiences. Before starting the event, I would like to thank all of you for being here today. I'm sure you will be able to gain some useful insights from the session today. The recording will also be available on our YouTube channel for those who may wish to drop off in between. A summary report will also be made published in a few days on our website and LinkedIn page. And few reminders before we start the event. That is, kindly post all your questions in the Q&A box. And in case you want to address your question to a particular panelist, kindly mention his or her name. And in case your question has not been addressed, please reach out to us. We will definitely get back to you later. You can reach out to us later after the event. So I will now quickly take you through the agenda of today. So we will start with the opening remarks by Lieutenant General Sudhir Sharma, followed by the keynote address by Rebecca Drilling. We will then move on to the first panel discussion of the event, that is Women in Corporate Intelligence and Trouble Risk Management, moderated by Aparna Gudat from MidCat, followed by the unveiling of the Women's Safety Handbook prepared by Team MidCat. We will then have a demonstration of MidCat's Artificial Intelligence Assisted Risk Intel Portal, followed by panel discussion second on women in security that will be moderated by Colonel Sushil Pradhan. And next, we will be conducting the panel discussion third on women in resilience, moderated by Mitesh Shah from MidCat as well. And finally, the closing remarks will be delivered by Colonel with opening remarks by Lieutenant General Sudhir Sharma. Lieutenant General Sudhir Sharma has led and modernized the logistics of the Indian Army and was the India's defense attaché in London. He has been on the board panel of advisors, governors of large Indian and global corporations. Lieutenant General Sharma is an acknowledged and thought leader and expert on defense, homeland, and corporate security. He advises corporations, defense, diplomatic, and homeland security think tanks, and is a speaker and author of repute. He has been providing his valuable insights on the most salient economic and political risk factors hovering over the globe in major international forums like the Horus Annual Meeting, Switzerland and Ireland, Global Arab Summit, Secure Tech, and many more. Lieutenant General Sharma has been decorated for gallantry as well as distinguished services. He has been felicitated on 2 occasions by the President of India for leadership and devotion to duty and. So I would like to now call Lieutenant General Sudhir Sharma for delivering the open remarks. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Madhura, and thank you, everybody. First of all, it's a privilege for MidCat to host this webinar on WISER. I think it's a very cute acronym, and I hope it grows as a brand. We at MidCat plan to host this annually so that WISER becomes a big community where all women can get together, network, meet each other, share ideas, and give each other strength as we move forward. My friends, you are aware that we are living in very dynamic and challenging times. In fact, very turbulent times. The world is passing through a great deal of shift. In fact, history is evolving in front of all of you. The world is going to change dramatically. Geostrategy and geoeconomics are clashing, and geostrategy is taking the lead, and geoeconomics has to follow. A new world order is coming up in front of you, and for the next few decades, there is going to be a lot of changes taking place in the world order. Globalization is at threat, and a lot of things are happening in the world. This is going to have a direct impact on corporates. All businesses are going to be affected slowly and gradually in some form or the other. And they will all have to redefine how they do business in this very turbulent world where things have changed dramatically. Now, to be able to handle that and to be able to handle the changes, especially in the security domain, I'm talking about security as an overarching theme, all the travel, intelligence, EHS, and resilience, all are going to come part of that, are going to need some changes. And if we have to manage that, we need the support of the greatest force of nature, and that is woman power. Without women being on board, we will not be able to handle this very, very fluid and dynamic situation. So therefore, it's a great privilege that we understand that we need more and more women to come into the security domain so they're able to deliver what we need. Now, people talk about empowerment. I think it's one of the most misused and sometimes I feel abused word in the last decade. Women empowerment, I think, is a cliche. Women don't need empowerment. They are already empowered. Then they say give leadership roles to women. They don't need a handout from you. What we need is a level playing field. Give them the opportunity to thrive so that they have a level playing field. And therefore, I'm so happy that the UN has decided the International Women's Day should be to break the bias. I too dream of a world which is gender neutral, which is free from bias, discrimination, and stereotypes. World where discrimination is discouraged, where equity is encouraged, very valued diversity. That's the kind of world in which all the women folk can thrive and survive. They bring a lot to the table. I think one of the things that women bring to the table is the intuitive decision making. Whenever I've dealt with women, I find that their decision making skills are very intuitive and very, very correct. In the security domain, they bring empathy on the table, ability to diffuse situations. When things are getting to a boil, the clear-headed and cool, pragmatic approach clears up the situation. And that helps a lot in the security domain. They are very professional, very passionate to succeed. And therefore, it drives a lot of things from them and use. I'm happy to say that I always found women more ethical than men. When we're doing business, they seem to tend to obey and follow the rules and set standards which some of the men need to follow and to adhere to. So many things women bring to the table. It is about time that not only we encourage them, but we brought them into the fold of decision making and the C-suite so that the security industry can benefit a lot from what they bring to the table. Today, on the eve of Women's Day, we really celebrate the role of women in the security industry. They've broken not only the glass barrier, but a very difficult domain where they entered, and they're doing brilliantly. We need more women. And therefore, I request, and we put a theme across today from the MidCat side, that all the senior ladies who are doing so well in the security field, we have a theme for you. Each one, mentor one, which means that please bring to the industry more women like you who can lead and who can create a difference in this domain. With that, I give you my good wishes for a very productive and stimulating day. I will look forward to hearing from you your views and how we can make this a better place to work in, how we can change the world, how we can improve together. And we have a world without bias where women can get the rightful place in the sun. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you so much, Sudhir Sharma sir, for the powerful open remarks, and that has perfectly set the context for today's discussion. And now, before moving forward, I'll just once again share my screen. Yeah, sorry, that was, I think, a technical glitch. Okay, now we move on to our next segment and would like to invite Ms. Rebecca Drilling for her keynote address. Rebecca Drilling is the Assistant Regional Security Officer at the US Consulate General in Mumbai, India, where she manages the security program comprehensively. Primarily, she advises the primary law enforcement agency that advises the chief diplomat at post in all matters related to the security of personnel, property, and information. She joined the Department of State as a special agent of the Diplomatic Security Service in 2014 and has conducted multiple criminal investigations towards protecting the US Secretary of State, the US UN Ambassador, and several foreign dignitaries during her first assignment in Washington, D.C. She was assigned to the US Embassy in Baghdad, Iraq, and managed the local background investigations. She has also served the US Embassy in Guatemala City, where she oversaw the criminal investigations for US visa and passport fraud, as well as apprehending fugitives and returning them to face justice in the US. We are honored to have you as a keynote speaker, and over to you.
Good morning. Thank you, Madhura. Good morning and happy Thursday, and welcome to the Women in Intelligence, Security, Environmental Health Services, and Resilience webinar. So that's a mouthful. So welcome everyone to WISER 2022. Thank you to MidCat for hosting us and providing a forum for this very important topic. My name is Rebecca Drilling. I hold many titles, as you all heard. I am a Foreign Service Officer. I am the Assistant Regional Security Officer for the US Consulate General in Mumbai. And I'm a Special Agent for the Diplomatic Security Service, which is the law enforcement bureau of the US Department of State. My agency is tasked with conducting criminal investigations of visa and passport fraud, managing the security programs for our missions overseas, and protecting the US Secretary of State, US UN Ambassador, and foreign dignitaries below the head of state level. I can happily say that I have done all of these jobs while being assigned to the Washington, D.C. office, Iraq, Guatemala, and now here in India. I am also, and not any less important, a wife and a mother. Traditionally, the field of intelligence and security has been filled with men. Within my agency, having a woman as a special agent is a relatively new concept. The Diplomatic Security Service was created in 1916, and it took another 56 years before the first female special agent was sworn in 1972. Today, approximately 10% of special agents in my organization are women, which means that there are less than 300 of us out of over 3,000. According to FBI statistics of law enforcement officers in the United States, only 13% are women. Those are shockingly low numbers, especially as women entered the workforce in the United States in the early 20th century. With my job, I have had the pleasure of working all over the world. I have seen women in various security roles, and in the 13 countries that I have worked in, our gender is severely underrepresented. I've only lived in India for 6 months, and through observations of my own office, women are not highly represented in security. Here in Mumbai, the head of my local staff is a powerful woman, but the fact that she is in such a position is an anomaly. Looking at the rest of our regional security offices throughout India, I don't see women outside of traditional administrative roles. Even with the security contracts for our embassies and consulates worldwide, the number of women guards is significantly low, and women in leadership roles within those organizations are almost unheard of. Not only is this an organizational failure, but it speaks to the endemic lack of initiatives empowering women to take non-traditional employment and give them the opportunities to do so. From the World Economic Forum's 2020 review of India, only 25% of women formally engage in the labor market. This is one of the lowest workforce participation rates in the world for women, ranking India 145th out of 153 countries, and that isn't accounting for how COVID has severely impacted the job market. Globally, women are still traditionally expected to be the primary caregivers for children and elderly relatives, as well as taking care of the home. Though there are legal protections in place in the United States and India, the job market is not inviting for the retention of women. I am not unique in the fact that I have a child. Due to the nature of our jobs, my husband and I currently live in different cities in India. I am the primary caregiver of our daughter, and I am thankful that I have the opportunity and resources to employ household help to assist me in caring for her. I'm also very lucky in that my supervisor and chain of command recognize the difficulties of being an only parent, and they provide me the flexibility to take care of my family. This is not a benefit that everyone has available to them. One of the local guards that works for the consulate is the primary caregiver of his elderly parent and has requested specific shifts to aid him in his caregiving role. Our office has the flexibility to grant that request. With women guards that work for us, we have adjusted our manpower methodology to schedule them to be flexible to the caregiver, parenting, and safety needs while not compromising our security posture. Again, this is not the type of support that is widely available in the larger job market. These are also very specific examples of allies supporting their team to ensure that the overall mission is met while also caring for their workforce. So what do we need to do to support women in the workforce and increase their numbers in intelligence and security? And why do we need women in the fields of intelligence and security? Allies and their support are essential to ensuring that women have a seat at the table. And not only just a seat, but to be provided the opportunities and environment to excel. Who are these allies? They are the largest demographic of those who can affect organizational change, men. Our male colleagues need to understand what their privileges are and how they can better support women. They need to ask what the needs and challenges are and actively search for the resources and evolution to engender change that supports this demographic, as well as other minority groups such as the LGBTQI+ community. Women also need to be involved in the conversation of organizational change. Many times we see that those in powers make changes for what they perceive the issues to be without gaining the input of those experiencing the issues. Open and honest communication is the only effective way of identifying where change can happen and the type of support that is needed. Not only is it important to provide better working conditions for women's equality in our society, but to also provide fresh ideas and insight to different ways of thinking. This is essential to reducing the gender and pay inequality, but also regarding intelligence and security. Because the general demographic remains largely the same of those employed in intelligence and security, the methodologies remain similar. Growth remains stagnant and organizational efficiency in mitigating threats is not as effective as it could be. Promoting women and other minority groups into intelligence and security means that these organizations have more insight into marginalized communities. They also have the advantage of differing perspectives. A phrase that we use constantly is that our adversary just needs to be effective once to attack us. We need to be effective 100% of the time to keep our people and information safe. To do that, we need to use all the tools available to us. And that means changing our demographic in the intelligence and security world so that we more accurately reflect the communities we serve and keep them safe. This month is Women's History Month in the United States, and International Women's Day is quickly approaching. I want to challenge all of us to look at our organizations and communities and see where we can further support women, whether it is to promote more women in positions in the intelligence and security field, or promote our friends, family, and community members to look beyond traditional jobs held by women. As we support women in our society, we create stronger safety nets for our overall security. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Drilling. It was really enriching hearing you speak. So before we move forward, I'll once again share my screen. So now it's time for the panel discussion first, that is Women in Corporate Intelligence and Travel Risk Management. Okay, I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. Okay. So now I would like to call Ms. Aparna Gudat for moderating the first session, the first panel discussion, that is Women in Corporate Intelligence and Travel Risk Management. Aparna Gudat is the Associate Director, Predictive Risk Intelligence at MidCat. She has previously worked with organizations such as ISS Security Services, India Electronics and Semiconductor Association, and the Citigroup. Her rich and diverse experience has been instrumental in making the PRI vertical a brand to reckon with. Over to you, Aparna ma'am.
Thank you so much, Madhura, and good morning, everyone. Just to confirm whether I'm visible and if I'm audible.
Yes, you are clearly visible and audible.
Yeah, so thank you so much. And thank you, General Sharma, for the keynote address and for setting the context. And thank you so much, Rebecca. That was an extremely powerful keynote address. And every single word that you said rings absolutely true. And I think all women here can connect with everything that you have said here. To start the session, I would request all the panelists to switch on their camera who are in panel 1. And it is an absolute privilege and honor for me to moderate this panel, and with a formidable team, all women team of industry experts. Before I start my panel, I would like to introduce my panelists one by one, and this is in no specific order. I would request each of the panelists to raise their hand and say hello to the audience, post their introduction so that the viewers can connect with you instantaneously. So our first panelist is Samantha Ann Leong. Samantha is a passionate security analyst with over 9 years of threat intelligence experience across the financial services and civil services industries. She is versatile in crafting both tactical and strategic security risk assessments based on an appreciation of global geopolitics and understanding of regional governments. She primarily works with physical security threats, with terrorism being her pet area of expertise. With the evolving nature of modern day threats, she has extended her expertise and knowledge to cyber threats as well. Samantha is based in Singapore and is currently the APAC regional lead threat intelligence for Deutsche Bank. In her earlier role, she was the team lead research analyst for Ministry of Defense of Singapore, a firm believer in developing, mentoring, and empowering people. She's the steering committee member for Asia Pacific Analyst Roundtable. Samantha has done her master's in political economy from University of Sydney. Hi, Samantha.
Hi, thanks, Aparna. It's great to be here.
Yeah, thank you, Samantha. Moving on to our next panelist, Denise Flynn. Denise monitors and assesses geopolitical risks to business operations in the Asia-Pacific region for Chevron and is based in Singapore. She holds an MA in International Relations from Johns Hopkins University and a BA in Political Science from UCLA. Hi, Denise.
Thank you, Aparna.
Thank you. Moving on to our next panelist, Shraddha Bhandari. Shraddha is an experienced hand in strategic consulting, intelligence, crisis management, and risk analysis for business, corporate, and international organizations. She is the co-founder and CEO of Intelligentsia Risk Advisors, a strategic consulting firm that aims to facilitate ease of doing business by managing and mitigating geopolitical, social, operational, and security risks. In her last corporate avatar, Shraddha was heading the APAC intelligence team for Barclays Bank, analyzing geopolitical risks for the APAC region and the Middle East and their impact on business decisions, operational continuity, and crisis response. She graduated from the London School of Economics with distinction in comparative politics. Hi, Shraddha.
Hi.
Hi.
Good to be here.
Thank you so much. Moving on to our next panelist, Shilpa Yadav. Shilpa is an accomplished professional in the risk and compliance industry with more than 5 years of experience. She's currently with an operations manager in Bank of America and is responsible for its global command center operations in Gurgaon, Haryana. She has worked with the IKEA group earlier as a risk and compliance consultant, apart from being associated with Midcat Advisory Services. She has experience in crisis and incident management, threat intelligence, and physical safety and security, having worked with organizations across different industries, supported with an assorted academic background. Hi, Shilpa.
Thank you, Aparna. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Thank you. Our next panelist is Nikita Kohli Manaktala. Nikita is an experienced strategic intelligence and risk management professional with a demonstrated history of working with academic institutions and corporates to manage risks. She's currently working as marketplace security specialist for APAC at Uber. Hi, Nikita.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Nice to be here.
Hi, thank you. Our next panelist is Ela Longani. Ela is an expert in risk management, problem solving, strategy, and planning, advising organizations on holistic risk addressal, designing, developing, and implementing risk mitigation strategies. During her 2 decades-long career, she has extensively worked in multiple risk domains like security, new technology, integrity, ethics and compliance, health and safety, women's safety, operational and reputational risks. Ela is currently the CEO of Sage Presage Consulting, an organization committed towards serving partners in holistic risk management. Sage Presage Consulting endeavors to build and maintain healthy, safe, secure, resilient, and compliant workspaces, safeguarding businesses against reputational integrity, compliance, technology, operational, and security risks. She is a strong advocate of women empowerment and equal opportunity. Her key volunteering includes being Vice Chairman, Women Safety and Security with Fire and Safety Association of India. She has also played a key role as the Secretary of OSAC Delhi chapter, and she is a core member of Global Women in Security Alliance. Hi, Ela. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, everyone. And thank you for MidCat for inviting me for this event. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now I would like to introduce you all to Mrs. Bhavdeep Kaur, Director, Business Development with KTC India, the premium car and coach rental company of India. Bhavdeep started her career as a teenager doing freelancing jobs while she was still in school in Dubai. And her first full-time job was at the Oberoi, New Delhi. After returning to India while she was pursuing her master's degree in travel and tourism 24 years ago, not knowing her career would lead Bhavdeep into the luxury car industry. She got invited by the Volvo Cars International team to promote Volvo cars to all diplomats, embassies, and HNIs of India, where she took over marketing of the luxury cars business. 20 years hence, and she is the most successful woman in this challenging, highly competitive industry where women are yet to make a headway. Bhavdeep says and believes that the brand or a product can only be successful if there's a competent heart, soul, and passion behind it. And she believes that if there's a woman, she can turn the impossible into I am possible. Good morning, Bhavdeep.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to meet you, and thanks for the lovely introduction. And looking forward for the session.
So thank you so much. And to start the session, in this panel discussion, we are going to focus on women in corporate intelligence and travel risk management. And we will delve upon challenges as well as opportunities for women in this field. We heard the stage being set very well by General Sharma and Rebecca, and will be taking the discussion forward from there. Before we commence this discussion, I would request all the participants to leave their comments in the chat box and share their questions in the Q&A section. We will, if time permits, we will try to take as many questions as possible during the live chat. So we will go with a question and answer format so that we are able to address all the challenges that we have been facing in this industry. So my first question would be to you, Shraddha. Corporate threat intelligence and travel risk management is basically a subset of the broader security, risk and resiliency industry, an industry that is historically considered a male domain. According to you, what are the perception and biases that women in this field are faced with? What are the challenges and hurdles, and how do we prepare and brace ourselves?
Perfect. Thank you, Parna. Again, very nice to be here. I think one of the things that this panel and this question led me to do was to basically go through my entire career trajectory. Not very great because I suddenly feel so old. I'm like, security, no security, the bones are hurting. I don't know how am I going to do it. And then I look at people like Sudhir Sharma sir and Colonel Sam and Sushil, and I'm like, I can do this if they can with their energy. So I'll be very honest, Parna, things have really changed from the time that I joined, and I think a lot of the women here would vouch for that, for the positive. When I joined in, I think 2009, 2010, it was a very different sort of a field. You know, it was completely a male-dominated field, and rightly so, because it was only starting up, and army men, civilian forces and men were basically synonymous with security. So I remember this quote that someone said to me, which quintessentially was a situation there. They made this comment, you know, what is a flower like you doing in the parched land of security? They didn't mean anything by it, but the sexism is very inherent. So that's how it was then. Even within security, it was a very gendered environment, right? So intelligence, for example, was hiring women. but you wouldn't find women in core physical security roles where you were implementing security measures. You would not have women in executive protection, for example. I remember, so I will speak from personal experience because I know the largest stage has been set. When I was in Barclays, we were asked to do, as an intelligence team, threat assessment of all our offices. And I remember one of the offices had like slum areas around them, which I wanted to visit because they were very vital for our threat analysis. I think I gave like heart attacks to my male security colleagues. They're like, oh no, but how can you do this? How can I tell them that I have done field work in extremely high-risk countries across the world? Right, so there were very clear lines on, even if we are a part of the security team, what we could do and what we couldn't do. A lot has changed because of work by organizations like MidCat, like OZAC, like ACES. Earlier, I used to enter a room, we would be 2, 3, 4 women in any of these conferences, which were completely male dominated. So I made this presentation to OZAC a couple of years back, where it's a study by the Stanford University, which said that in any organization, when women reach about 22 to 25% in terms of leadership, etc., they reach a critical mass. And from there, the growth of women and other communities that are not as advantaged, LGBT, for example, it just becomes very phenomenal. And I think corporate security in India has really reached that critical mass. Right, so not only hiring women, but now starting to create facilitating environment. When I was earlier, we would do night shifts, and you know, the need to be dropped back safely in some of our cities, etc., was something that's not being done. We pointed out that we are primary caregivers, so how do we balance our 24/7 jobs with kids, with families, etc.? A lot has changed. Now I think women are actively leading corporate security teams, though the number is still much lower. They're starting to come in executive protection teams. They're starting to, for example, represent security teams with businesses. I mean, earlier I remember even the businesses would prefer talking to a person who is from the army or from the civilian force, or sorry, from the defense forces. So a lot has changed, and I really hope, I've had some amazing bosses who really helped me go forward, do things, put myself out. But as women also, we have to realize that we also have these internal constraints that we need to come out of. You know, it's great, we are consensus builders, I get that, but we also don't assert ourselves enough. We think it's a male-dominated world, so we will not speak out what we want to do. We will not say that, no, we want to do this field work, no, you get us budgets. And we don't reach out to each other enough, right? So that is something I think as women, we also need to do. And then I guess where the sky's the limit.
Thank you so much, Shraddha. And that was, you're being extremely humble, because all of us look up to you, both you and Bipasha, for being able to set up a company and make a space for yourself. So your journey is absolutely remarkable, and that was a very humble start to such accomplishments.
I would love to show you my Vikral Roop, as our clients say. Shraddha, Bipasha, don't get them angry. just let them be humble. It's best for everybody.
Yeah, it is often misconstrued. So, but I have so many questions. If time permits, I would definitely like to address some of those if we have the time later during the panel discussion.
Sure.
Yeah, I will be moving on to our next panelist, and this question would be addressed to Ela. So, Ela, why do we need more women in this field? What are the traits that are unique to women and that would make this industry more holistic?
Okay, thanks, Aparna. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here today representing women in intelligence, security, resilience, risk management at large. Coming to your question, I think diversity is really good for business. Inclusive teams actually outperform less inclusive teams by an average of 50%. Diversity leads to more innovation, resilience, and it has a positive impact on the ROI. The new service economy, where it doesn't depend on the physical strength anymore, but softer skills that come easily to women, like determination, attention to detail, negotiation, maybe reliability, and community building. So we are like natural caregivers, nurturers, trainers. We build teams in a family-like way, wherein the team environment is less authoritative, more cooperative. I was reading Satya Nadella's interview on his son, And he mentioned that how his wife, when she actually came to know about their son's condition, she was intuitively caring and selfless, which helped him being a more compassionate leader. If we talk about risk management, I think operational risk is more about analytical skills. Female traits like emotional intelligence, problem solving ability, I think that positively influences the way risks are managed. So females' brains are like naturally wired for a long-term, broad strategic vision. So I think there was a research that was done on how each gender kind of manages the risks. So female consider the bigger picture from a risk management strategy standpoint, whereas males, they actually look at the practical side of things, or they're looking at the tools and the streamlined functions rather. So women would approach things from an ethical standpoint, they'd be more intuitive, they'd be more open to innovation, networking. I think these unique qualities actually make us safe pair of hands. And I have personally, relied on, collaboration, networking. I've been open to learning, and I think these qualities have really helped me in my risk management journey. Coming to intelligence, I think an inclusive workplace will be, it actually strengthens collaboration between analysts, researchers, admin staff, providers, and management. I think it also helps with the crucial research and the analytical rigor, on which the judgments are based. Women are also like natural matchmakers, so we kind of join the dots. That helps the business, it helps intelligence. If we talk about, women in security, I think it will only enhance decision making, and it will kind of better the conflict resolution, safe operations, and community building for the traits that I just spoke about. I think in some cases, it's just inevitable to have women, or unavoidable rather to have women, because I think in conflict zone and hostile environments, we are helpful in addressing specific needs of women and protect the rights of women. I think one area where women can play a critical role is that of workplace harassment, wherein current stats are really grim. So about 72% of sexual harassment cases actually are unreported. 95% of harassers, they go unpunished. The attitude towards the online harassment actually differ by gender. So I think unless we have got women in the decision-making roles, the change may not come at all. And sometimes I think people just want to have compassion and comfort, and they're more comfortable talking to a female. From the futuristic standpoint, I would say that with emerging technology, it is becoming kind of critical to have women participate. And there's nothing, inherently masculine about blockchain, AI, machine learning. Yet in cloud computing, there are about 12% of females. In AI, there are about 26%, I feel. Unless, tech sector actually stands up and balances the leisure, we risk missing out on the full potential of the fourth industrial revolution and attain a balanced perspective that will define the future for us. So we'll not do good, we'll not do any good to humanity if we are not engaging women in the next gen solutions. So those are my views. I think it kind of answers the questions. Back to you, Parna.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ida. And I would have some more questions for you, but later in the session, if time permits. So over to you, Nikita. So Nikita thought it is time for me to discuss that we understand what are the various departments within this business. We know that there are certain areas where women have already made their mark. There are these certain job roles where women are expected and probably preferred as well. But there are certain departments where women are yet to make a breakthrough. So if you could shed some light about the same, and what your experience has been and what your point of view is. Yeah, over to you.
Thank you so much, Aparna. Great to be on this panel with really accomplished women. So, a kind of discussion like this usually starts that, this is a division, and in EHS, we have so many percentage women, in a typical company, and in security, we have so many, and in intelligence, we have so many percentage. And usually we go on these reports and the diversity reports published by various companies. That's usually the way it goes, and I really hate that. And I'll tell you why. Because just saying that you have an entire team of women working for you, say, for example, in a corporate security plant, does that really mean that are they able to make a difference? Are they able to take the decisions that they need to? Are they empowered enough? What about the security within a segment? At the end, I think what my experience has shown me, it's not just about our experience as being a woman or something that sets us apart, but rather our ability to do our job. We are in a segment where we need to be able to understand and segregate risk, threat, and vulnerability, and where does everything lie. If we don't, for example, if we have someone we are putting up, say, a person just because we need to fill up some quotas, but they can't even make the difference between a threat and a risk, that where does that vulnerability, where does the consequence of the threat, and how does it together make a risk? If they can't even figure that out, are you just filling up a quota? At the end, it's in all of these segments and in anywhere else. And I've found that through my personal experience, if you can make a mark, if you're good at your job, you will rise. And I'll say this because I started within an industry that was even more male dominated than this one. I started by being in a think tank which is entirely male dominated. There were literally 3 women in a staff meeting of almost 100 people. And, when I started, it was like, perhaps you should just look at the decor for, upcoming meeting or something. But when you make clear that, yes, you can make a good analysis, you're good at what you're doing, you would be given more responsibility. And that is somewhere where that's what you're seeing across in all of these divisions. Let's just take the term WISER that we have right now for this meeting. We have women in intelligence, security, EHS, and resiliency. Of course, it was a lot easier for women to get into segments of EHS and resiliency initially, right? Because it was driven by a lot of the things that, women are good with resiliency. They're able to pick things back up, and they're able to look at more about safety and security within, say, like disease and other things which come up. And the environmental analysis, which is a lot of what the preconceived notions were of EHS and resiliency. Then we come to intelligence and security, and we are seeing a recent rise. And we're seeing so many good analysis. Aparna, you're leading an entire team, which is more like, I think, except for 2 or 3 men in the entire team, everyone's a woman. But are you basing, I can assure you that this team is not based exclusively on filling up quotas, but based on the fact that you can really get the job done. At the end, what matters and what we can show in any segment, with including security as well, which is, I feel, the segment that women are really yet to crack. It's only going to be based on our ability to really get the job done. Saying that, okay, this is a security threat, you know what, I'll take care of it and I will get that thing done. It's not going to be about that women are naturally good at something. Of course, there's no such thing, and there will be biological differences if someone wants to point that out. But it's about getting and making sure that you're a reliable person at a workplace. And I think that just because we have certain segments where we have made a difference, the only thing stopping us is that of the women in a particular segment who have managed to enter, are we pushing those biases? So I have seen a few women, definitely in our experience, and I'm sure everyone has seen that, well, they said that, you know what, I did not get that promotion because I was a woman. We're not realizing that oftentimes we would like take slack that, okay, we can't go perhaps at night, we can't do night duty, kyunki raat ho gayi hai and we have to come back and it's not safe for a woman. If you're doing that job, will you be distinguishing it? That it just shows that can you really make a difference? We have seen people like Barkha that really go into the field in Kargil. She is there, she is really working hard. And that is where she has made her mark. And so have women in every single field. It's about being that reliable person. And that is, I'm leading the way for more women. And that is all the thing that's always going to be. It's not going to be just that, you know, you're women and we need to be a part of a quota to be fulfilled for any segment. I think that that is what we really need to do.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Nikita. Now we need to discuss the importance of women professionals at all levels of the corporate hierarchy. What are the essential skill sets? both from the point of view of educational qualifications as well as attitude. For this, I would like to request Samantha to speak from her experience and know-how of the industry. Over to you, Samantha.
Thanks, Aparna. I'm just checking that you can hear me okay before I begin. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, perfect. So I think that's a very fantastic question. And a lot of my response also harps on what Ila said previously about how, women are very different and they bring very positive things to the organization. So I think, as we all know, times are changing and companies are increasingly concluding that women are very important in the corporate hierarchy. Therefore, we see all these pushes for greater gender diversity and so on, particularly among the senior leadership. But that said, we do see that women remain underrepresented across the corporate ladder. So there are a few studies by McKinsey in the last couple of years. While women have made gains in representation in the last 5 years, this is not very significant. So for example, while they might have made up maybe less than 50% of the workforce at the entry level, at the senior and C-suite levels, they only account for about 25% of the workforce, despite the small gains that they've made in the past few years in terms of representation. So I think there are three narratives that I want to present here on why women are important, like you mentioned, at various levels of the corporate hierarchy. I think starting from the top, it's quite clear that women make a difference at the top in these senior positions. And just like what Ila said, the firms with women in C-suite positions, they turn out to be more profitable. They are more socially responsible. They also tend to provide safer and higher quality customer experiences. And this is based on some studies by Harvard Business Review. So with women joining the C-suite, we see that firms are more open to change, again, like what Yula said, and they're also less risk-seeking. And the psychology behind this is quite interesting. I think the thinking is that because women, the women who have had to make it to the top, they've had to adapt, they've had to learn all sorts of strategies. They needed to do certain things in order to stand out. So they've had to be creative, they've had to think of novel solutions, novel strategies to overcome stereotypes. They also need to deal with visibility problems. So either they are hyper visible in that people pay attention to them because they are women, therefore they cannot make mistakes, or they are under visible, so people don't notice them, people don't want to pay attention to them. So these women have to develop ways of making themselves heard. And these successful women at the top are also used to challenging the status quo. And basically all these embodied experiences tend to trigger more open-mindedness at senior levels as well, because of the discussions that they bring, the statements that they put out and so on. So that's at the C-suite level, very important to have women there. But maybe a little bit lower down in middle management, also according to other McKinsey studies, it is shown that employees with female managers are more likely to say that their manager has supported and helped them in the past couple of years. So this is during the COVID times. Female managers are more likely than men to check in on their staff's overall well-being. They were more likely also to ensure that the workload is manageable, more likely to help to navigate work-life challenges and provide emotional support, provide various strategies to prevent or manage burnout. And this is compared to male managers. So overall, this resulted in happier employees. Employees were less burned out, and they were also less likely to consider leaving their jobs, which is something that many companies struggled with, especially during COVID times. There's all this talk about the Great Resignation and so on. So women in middle management, they do have that sense of added compassion, or maybe a little bit more interest in the social dynamics of the team. And this has helped teams better manage their staff and ensure staff retention and development as well during challenging times. And I think the third narrative basically is that, women make a difference anywhere. And that's also proven across several companies and several research studies. So there was a recent study by Meta, previously Facebook. They looked at women in the workplace and concluded also that women and men have different experiences in life. I mean, that's a given, right? But it's this multiplicity of experiences and perspective that sparks creativity and sparks innovation and sparks discussion and interactions between teams. So having women on the teams, even at a very junior entry level, this can change dynamics and boost group collaboration. Women are also a little bit better at men at certain things like reading non-verbal cues. So these things make the team a little bit more cohesive. They gel a little bit better. And overall, this sense of gender inclusivity and diversity also boosts morale and opportunity. Usually, if it's a very male-dominated environment, there's a sense of competition. A lot of people are trying to stand out because everyone is rather similar. But when you look at the diversity among teams, then people realize that, okay, this team appreciates different people for who they are. They appreciate the diversity of experiences and perspectives, and that is one that people prefer to thrive in. So in terms of what educational qualities or skills are needed, I think in the past, especially for the security industry, there was a lot of reliance or a lot of expectation that people who are in senior positions have some kind of military background. Either they served in the military before, or they're they tend to graduate from that sector and then move into the private sector where they go into security roles. But I think this is changing a little bit. There's less importance of having that military background, that on-the-ground service, because nowadays there's increasing need for research skills instead of this military background. So I think what would put you in good standing would be, for example, a background in political science or international relations, some indications that you are aware of global developments, what's happening in the world, being able to tie those bigger pictures together, make connections and understand, sources of threat, be able to analyze this. And from a professional perspective, I think it's also very important that women are able to communicate clearly and concisely. So to this end, courses in business writing, courses in analysis, intelligence analysis, writing reports, those things are also very good and crucial to have, because it's this little bit of professionalism that helps you stand out among your peers. I mean, whether you're male or female, to be frank. And also increasingly, there are many security courses and certifications that you can take online. Regardless of where you are, there are a lot of remote opportunities now, and that kind of increases women's access to this industry, which is a very positive development in these days. But I think more important than educational qualifications, the skill sets and the attitude that you have is very, very fundamental. So on this point, I actually just have 3 messages. The first point I would want to encourage is that people be brave. So as a woman, it's not going to be an easy and clear-cut path for you. And what I tend to tell the people working under me is that please don't wait to be invited to a seat at the table. That may not come. Don't wait to be asked. Don't wait to be taught. Don't wait to be instructed. Just offer to try. Offer to experiment. And even though things may sound a bit silly or your ideas may not be like fully baked, just try, just reach out, just float your idea. Don't be worried about overreaching, because usually your idea would be appreciated in some way, or at least the sense that this person is curious, this person wants to learn. So sometimes people are also a little afraid to ask too much of a woman. For example, like the other panelists have been saying, they don't want to, put the woman in a risky situation and so on. But if they want to go easy on you, ask yourself, like, can I deal with this? Can I handle this? And the answer is usually yes. So give it a try and be brave. And the second advice I would have is to be thoughtful. So do be mindful of the structures that you work in, the dynamics of the team, the concerns that people have. And yes, maybe people might have some considerations or some apprehensions. Maybe you're young, maybe they have an issue with you being female, but okay, ask yourself, how can I improve things? If I face resistance, how can I overcome this in a positive manner? How can I, put it such that, I succeed and I do well, and I am mindful of the sensitivities around me. And then the last point I have also is I think the most important one, which is to be humble. And this means being ready to make mistakes. So don't let these mistakes stop you, but let them be learning opportunities. Be ready to learn. Maybe we might get some criticism and we might feel that the criticism is gendered in some way, but put our emotions aside and always look for the points that we can improve on. So yes, maybe something has been said to us, we don't fully agree, but which parts of it do we agree and which parts of it can we improve on? I think that's important to ask. And the day that we all become successful, I think it's very important to be humble and remember all the people that have helped us along the way. It may be a bit tempting to feel that, okay, I'm accomplished now, I'm a woman, I have made it, there's not many of me out here. But check ourselves, be constantly grateful of the opportunities that we have faced, and don't forget to pass that on to women who are entering the ranks, female staff or female people who you can also train. So find mentors, find female mentors, male mentors, people you can trust, as I mentioned, to help you along your journey, and then later pay that forward, become the mentor to other people as well. And I think that would be very, very enriching. Back to you, Aparna.
Thank you so much, Samantha. And you covered a lot of ground. And I think all the youngsters who are attending the session, I am sure that they can really benefit from the educational and qualifications that you've spoken about. And I think one more thing that we have been able to cover is when Ila spoke about the inherent qualities that women possess and which are seen as, which is what keeps us in good stead. But the same things that as you move up the ladder and when you are in a position, how you need to adapt to come across as somebody who has these strengths, but these are not impediments. A lot of time it is felt as if you're less strategic, or that you are unable to adapt to a situation, or not strong enough to change yourself when the need arises. So I think these both these connect extremely well. So thank you so much for that. Now I invite our next panelist, Denise. So Denise, if you could shed some light on the importance of women supporting women, and how can we encourage each other and work together to change the generic perception? Over to you, Denise.
Thank you, Aparna, and thank you, MITCAP, for putting on such a great forum. In terms of the first part of the question on the importance of women supporting other women, as a geopolitical risk analyst, I often think through a geopolitical risk lens, and I thought of this issue the same way. But what happens when you see countries, when you see regions that are divided, when you see a lot of competition? And when you see that, there's policy paralysis. Worst case scenario, you can see civil wars. And so when there are other problems like this, you have things like lack of economic growth, development, or opportunities. And so on the opposite end, when you see a population coming together, they can pull their strength towards a collective good, and you see economic growth, lots of educational opportunities, and other things that can make a community or a country stronger. And to me, this really resonated with women supporting other women. When we have this collective strength, we can benefit everybody, make the company, community, our society stronger. And so we spend a lot more time building rather than competing. And with the second part of that question, so when we look at how we can encourage each other to break down barriers or misperceptions, I think a lot of the panelists have raised a lot of really great points. And I think some of my points may address some of those misperceptions or issues that we've faced in the past. And I'll just lay out 4 things from my own experience. And this was commented on earlier just now. I do think we need to set a good example. We need to be up front and center at meetings. We need to speak up and encourage other women to do the same. And so if you hear a woman being interrupted, one can step in and say, you'd like to hear her finish. You can also help somebody who you can see is struggling to break into the conversation by encouraging that to hear their point of view. I also think that, and secondly, I think there are opportunities where we can highlight each other's accomplishments. And this can be a very subtle thing. It doesn't have to be so in your face. It can also be in a very simple introduction. When you talk about your colleague before meeting with somebody else, you can say this, for example, this is Samantha. You might know her from her very good work on South China Sea tensions. And that already parlays an introduction and shines accomplishment on somebody, when I think sometimes there is that perception, some people think that women don't own their own achievements. Thirdly, I think that as women, we can give direct feedback to each other. I think there have been a lot of studies saying that women often don't get direct feedback, and that slows accomplishment, that slows our success in the work field. And so in supporting each other, sometimes it's not the easiest thing to do, but I think there is a certain way of approaching it. But if you give somebody very constructive and actionable feedback, that could be huge to their career. If somebody needs better presentation skills, let them know. If you hear, in the US, it's often referred to as uptalk, but it's a way of speaking where you sound less sure of what you're saying. For example, there's unrest in Ukraine. Rather, let that person know there is unrest in Ukraine. And simple little things like that, I think, can go a long way. And people just sometimes don't realize they have these things that could be worked on. Lastly, I think, and this has been raised by others as well, I think, and I think it speaks to why it is so important. I think we need to mentor and sponsor each other. It's a very important way of helping to drive others' success. And we all have lessons learned that can be passed along, and I think it's important to do so. I think if you're young or earlier in career, you also have a role to play by seeking out other women. And I think sometimes some women in the field of security may not themselves realize the value that they have, and that they can also play a role in being a role model. So if you're also part of that younger up and coming generation, it's important for you to do that. I also would encourage that young up and coming men to also do that. One of the things that I think can be counterproductive in some of these discussions is when it turns into an exercise of male bashing, or when it's a victimization type of discussion. And I don't think that's terribly helpful. And so I think including our male cohorts in this is going to be very important going forward. So yeah, I'll have things to share, and I'll end with that on that mentoring point. But thank you again very much for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you so much, Denise. Just looking at the points that you raised, just one thing, something that has, that we've been discussing internally. How do you feel about these women preferred, where we say that, okay, this opening is there and women are preferred, although I know it is good for, gender diversity, and the fact that we are, we know that there are still very few women there. At the same time, there is also the question of all of us, most of us want to make it on our own. It is not about our gender. It is not, we are talking about equality here. We are talking about looking at us as a candidate. And, how do you feel about that?
It is a difficult, that is a difficult aspect, right? We all feel like I'm not here in this role because I'm a woman. I'm here because I'm the most qualified person here. And I think that's why you do things to highlight accomplishments, to do things to shine a light on the capability, not that is gender neutral, and showing things that I think where we are equal. But that's always going to be very difficult. And I know in hiring slots, people are always considering that as a factor. But at the same time, I also think if you continuously pass up female candidates, that does show possibly a lack of, possibly that that department or that company might not value that gender diversity as much. I do think that you have to do a little of both. We're still not quite at the point where we can forget entirely that gender in hiring. It can be completely blind, I think. I do think that it still should play a little bit of a role, but certainly I think highlight our accomplishments, show that we are the best candidate. And I think there is a way of doing that.
Thank you so much, Denise. Moving on to Shilpa. Shilpa, let's talk about a very important aspect. How do we ace that interview? How do we convince the interviewer that we are as competent as any other candidate or the male counterpart in safeguarding the interests of an organization? Yeah, over to you, Shilpa.
Yes, thank you for the cliched yet quintessential question, Aparna. So you touched upon this aspect about being a male interviewer or a female interviewer. So I'd like to start on a note that bases my experience so far in the industry. Honestly, it never occurred to me that should I prepare myself in a different manner if it is a male interviewer or a female interviewer. I always went in with the line of thought that, okay, I have an interview, regardless of whether the interviewer is going to be male or female. And I would really recommend everyone to do that, because ultimately what a person is looking for is a candidate who can do the job well for them. So focus less on the element of the interviewer's gender and focus more on how you are going to do what you are going to do. So that would solve that issue there. And how to ace that interview? Again, I have been an interviewee a lot of times in my journey so far, short journey, I would say. So what I have seen is the easier you make it, the better it would be. A lot of people complicate it a lot, and they would put in many permutation combinations of this can happen, and they will preempt scenarios. Keep it easier. So for that, I actually came up with two things. So what to do before an interview and what to do during the interview, because what you will do before the interview will have a significant impact on how well you will do during the interview. So coming to this first stage of what you can do before you go for an interview, you need to read up about the organization that you're going to interview for. You have ample information available on Google. You can read about multiple subjects depending upon how comfortable you are with the topic. If you want to delve down into the financials, you read up about the financials, what are the long-term and short-term goals, is there anything else because of which they are in the news, and you want to focus on that particular element. Secondly, you need to read up about the person who's going to interview you. 99.9% of the cases, you do get to know the name of the person who's going to interview you. So try and go on LinkedIn, read up about the person. It will not make a great difference, but as a basic human tendency, you will have some sense of familiarity, and you will be able to paint a picture of maybe how the conversation is going to happen, and it will help you tone down on their nervousness factor as well. And the last element of this first stage, what I would recommend is you need to map down your skills, your current skills that you have, and the skills which you are probably wishing to own in the near future, that you can able as per the job description of the role that you are going to interview for. So these are three key elements which I cover before I go for an interview. Now, once I've done this well to my satisfaction, what to do during an interview. So first thing is that you need to focus on your hard skills, the subject matter expertise, what the core job that you would be required to do. So you need to downplay or overplay. Like, again, here I want to mention another important factor, that it's always said how to balance your personality and your professional qualities. Sometimes you cannot completely remove a person's personality from the professional qualities. Both of these elements together really make up a competent candidate. And as a person, it's only you who can decide that which element needs to be focused on more and which one has to be downplayed to a certain extent. So once you're done with the hard skills, this is where when you mapped your GD with the skill set that is required, and it will come into picture. The second thing during the interview phase, and a very critical thing again, is the soft skills. Because while you may be a subject matter expert, but if you don't have some soft skills, and the key soft skills that I would always look for, because not in the capacity of being a part of the HR team, but I've been fortunate enough to be a part of the hiring process for a couple of candidates, both in more than one organization. So communication skills is one very key element, because you may be knowing everything, but unless and until you're able to put across what you know, your subject matter expertise is not going to help the business. and you will not be able to deliver value and contribute to the organization. The second important element would be adaptability. I think the last 2 years have been a testament to how adaptable we need to be working within the pandemic. So that has come into play and it continues to remain a key factor. And the third thing would be team playing skills, because even if you're an individual contributor, there would be occasions where you will be required to interact with other departments or other organizations. So nothing can function in a silo in the world day. So team playing skills is another element that you should focus on. And last but not the least, the most important factor again is your willingness to learn, especially when you're someone who's not had a lot of experience or you're a fresher in the industry. Your educational background, your attitude, and your willingness to learn will actually help the interviewer decide that if this person is willing to learn, then we can upskill this person. We can make this person learn new things. But if you have a fixated mindset and a closed mindset, that will not really portray us in the right light. So we don't want that happening. So our option should always be to have an open mindset, be open to new experiences, and to be able to demonstrate while we are appearing for that interview. That is the most important part, where your communication skills will come into the picture. So yes, after these two stages, the last part is ask questions to the interviewer. So it's not that because I have actually seen a lot of times people will ask a question at the end of the interview just because they have to ask a question. Do not make that mistake. If you don't have a question genuinely, do not go for it. Ask a question after listening to your conversation with the interview, after analyzing it carefully, because it will demonstrate that you are decisive. You are going to take a decision that if you should go for this job opportunity or not, and it will also demonstrate that you are confident in your own self. So that is my take on this question, Aparna. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shilpa. I think we have about, we are slightly short of time, but we will move on to the next panelist. We may not have enough time for the closing remarks, but I think it's been, either way, it's been a very, very enriching conversation. So moving on to our final panelist, Bhavdeep. Bhavdeep, working in a male-dominated industry, we wanted to understand who or what inspired you to join this industry, and do you have any role model, or were you specifically inspired by anything or anyone? So over to you, Bhavdeep.
Yes, thanks, Aparna, and thank you, General Sudhir Sharma, for your remarks. Each one mentor one. I have taken that, and that's the homework from now. We will be honoring that, and I agree. We all need to empower everybody, encourage everybody. Yes, to your question, Aparna, I fully agree. The automotive industry has been considered a very male-dominated industry. However, it's amazing to see how beautifully a woman can be the right fit into this industry. Reason, we women have been naturally blessed with the power of being accommodating, patient, multitasking, and hospitable. And as a matter of fact, the luxury automotive industry encompasses all of these because of the passion and the dedication to achieve in each and everyone's goals and to be successful. So today I'm a proud and a blessed mother, wife, daughter, daughter-in-law, sister, and a sister-in-law, and started my career when I was just 16 years old. I remember when I had joined Volvo Cars back in 1998, after a short stint of 2 years at the Oberoi, New Delhi. It was interesting to see how every customer was looking for genuine help and guidance and service for on-ground transportation solutions. Not only here, later when I moved to Audi, Jaguar Land Rover, BMW, Maserati, and while I was the CEO with Lexus New Delhi, every customer was overwhelmed to see how a woman could proactively be so engrossed, not so technically, but yet find solutions to all their issues or problems. It reminds me way back in late 90s, when I was the only lady in the luxury car industry, when I overheard my senior management males talking to each other and saying, let's see how long she sticks around in this industry. So in Hindi, it was, "Dekhte hain kitni der tikti hai, madam." Needless to say, God has been very kind and been my biggest inspiration. Here comes my father, and after my marriage, my husband, accompanied by my brothers, who each passing day have been inspiring me to keep accepting new challenges and with notes of positivity. In fact, it's to let you know that today, whatever we achieve, most important is the main encouragement and understanding we women receive in personal and professional spheres of life. I would also like to share a recent experience during the first COVID wave, wherein we had the repatriation of British High Commission Foreign Nationals, Britishers. You had US Embassy, Australia, Korean, and lots of other foreign nationals whom we had ground transported during the lockdown, where all the borders were sealed from various parts of the country. So being a woman and with my team of other women, we were able to communicate very beautifully and understand the challenges that we were facing, or even the nationals were facing on ground. We had the capability, and my team was beautifully taking these challenges and telling the drivers how these situations could be overcome. And the drivers were like soldiers, and I would say like in the wall front, who were able to get even a single woman who was traveling, I remember from Meghalaya down to Delhi, had her drives non-stop for, I would say, 36 to 48 hours, and had her reach safely back into her flight. There was a British couple who was 80-year-old during the lockdown, and they were stuck into a Rajasthan village, and they had not eaten for about a week, 10 days, and they were about to commit a suicide, I remember. And we were told by the British High Commission that, how do you think you could help that British couple survive? They were living on boiled potatoes and water from the well. My team with the drivers took all the food and the necessary support which was there. And it was amazing to see how beautifully the communication worked during this lockdown. Sitting back home, having the drivers in the front, we evacuated the on-ground process beautifully. So hats off to the wonderful teamwork, which was, again, the front face was the women, and on the war front, I would call it, were the drivers and my supervisors. My tip to all the aspiring women is that the moment you start feeling low or feel the situation is becoming difficult to handle or getting out of control, just gather your wisdom, your breath together, and believe me, it's just a situation that can calmly be handled, and you'll see all the issues and problems getting resolved. A big thank you to all the men who inspire us, at least one woman every day, and keep this thought in mind, then women are at least equally capable and deserving. This includes my young MD of KTC India, Gurudev, and the fantastic team, which mostly has women and has made this possible each passing day. Thank you so much. And while I'm talking to you here, I am very, very thankful to my team, and of course, back in the office. My mom has just had a heart surgery, so she's recovering from the hospital. So while we are talking, she's in the hospital, and need all your wishes that she can just go back home. So hopefully she's getting discharged tomorrow. So thank you for your time. And for all the fantastic women who spoke, I really, really take a lot of notes back to improve ourselves on each hour of the day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bhavdeep, and we wish you the very best. So before Madhura cuts me off, I know I've taken few minutes extra, and we don't really have the time for closing remarks, but I will be in touch with all the panelists for their quotes and comments for further circulation. So on behalf of MidCat, I would like to profusely thank each of our panelists for joining us today and sharing insights and experience. I would also request everybody to give them a big round of applause. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. I would like to also thank all the participants. Please stay on for the next panel discussion on women in security. I hope Colonel Pradhan won't mind that I've eaten into 5 minutes of his time. For all female participants, we have also created an all women WhatsApp group called WISER, where we can all connect with each other and support one another. I will be sharing my email ID in the chat box, so you can reach out to me and share your mobile number, and so that I can add you onto the group. I would also request you all to follow us on our LinkedIn page. Both my email ID as well as link to our social media handles will be available on the chat box now. Thank you so much. Thank you again. It was an extremely interesting discussion, and thanks again, and back to you, Madhura.
Aparna, I have just answered the question in the chat window because I wasn't sure about the time it was available or not. So,
sure. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you to all our esteemed panelists and moderator. It was wonderful hearing you all. So we are running a little bit over time, and I will quickly share my screen. Okay, so as we have just heard the amazing panel's take on the increasing role of women in the outside world, it has set the perfect context to unveil MidCat's Women's Safety Handbook that has been put together by the analysts at MidCat. And for that, I would like to call Atreya Bhatt to unveil the handbook and also conduct a comprehensive demonstration on our AI-based portal. So Atreya, over to you, and you have 20 minutes to do both the tasks.
Right. Thanks a lot, Madhura. A very good afternoon to everyone present here. My name is Atreya Bhatt, and I am an analyst with MidCat's Predictive Risk Intelligence team. I'll quickly share my screen. Right. It's an absolute honor and a pleasure to be able to unveil MidCat's Women's Safety Handbook for 2022. So I'll get straight to it. MidCat has always propagated the concept of women's safety awareness and self-defense, and has been publishing the Women's Safety Handbook for several years running now. The Women's Safety Handbook is important and relevant, especially in today's environment with the increasing contributions of women in businesses across the industry landscape. So unfortunately, however, simultaneously, crimes associated with these have also risen in the recent past. So the Women's Safety Handbook begins with general safety awareness points in various risk situations that one may find themselves in. So, it includes salient pointers about things to be kept in mind and to be cognizant about while traveling to the workplace, while in the workplace, while executing responsibilities for the organization, either while traveling outstation, while traveling abroad, while in social gatherings in a business atmosphere, while staying in hotels, and importantly also, important points about how to stay safe in the cyberspace is also included, especially, in light of increasing incidents of cybercrimes against women in the recent past, which is also expected to surge in the future as well. Following this is relevant information pertaining to cybercrime cells in India, as well as important helpline numbers that one may refer to if one finds themselves in the unfortunate situation of being affected by a cybercrime, followed by the various classifications of crimes against women in India and the relevant legal sections pertaining to the Indian Penal Code and the punishments associated with the crime. So the next section covers the redressal mechanisms and the legal mechanism that one can refer to if if one is a victim of a cybercrime, and the salient do's and don'ts in such a situation. After this is, of course, sexual harassment at the workplace, reportage for which has been widely done over the past several years. So this section includes information pertaining to what constitutes as sexual harassment at the workplace, the legal definition of sexual harassment at the workplace, as well as important legal mechanisms and committees that need to be constituted with organizations with more than a set number of employees, and the process that needs to be followed for addressing certain crimes and situations of sexual harassment at the workplace. So, the process that needs to be followed is covered in this section, as well as the, websites and the contact details of important non-governmental organizations that can help in this cause. The last section of the handbook covers the more physical aspect of self-defense. So it includes certain body postures and self-defense tips that one can do to repel a physical attack by an assailant, either at the workplace or elsewhere as well. Please note, MidCat has developed several modules that have been effectively used for training women in risk situations across various corporate entities. This can be customized as per your bespoke requirements. And if you have such a requirement, please do get in touch with us, and the contact information for the same will be provided in the chat box soon. This handbook is available on MidCat's LinkedIn page, and please do visit our LinkedIn page, and then you'll get access to the soft copy of the Women's Safety Handbook for 2022. Right. So this brings an end to the unveiling of the Women's Safety Handbook 2022. And I will now be moving forward to give you a demonstration of MidCat's Risk Intelligence portal. Madhura, can you see my screen?
Yes, Atra, it's visible. All
right, great, thank you. So this is the homepage of the Risk Intelligence platform that MidCat has. So the moment you sign in using the credentials provided, you will be viewing the screen right in front of you. All of these diamonds that you're currently seeing on your screen are the various risk events and the alerts that MidCat's team of subject matter experts have created in the recent past as well as today. Once you hover over all of these diamonds, over any one of these diamonds, you'll be able to see a very succinct summary of what the alert is about. And once you click on the diamond is when you'll see a more detailed description of the risk alert. Every alert will have a set structure, including a description, background, impact analysis, and general recommendations. If it is a live event, something that's going to develop through the day, you can also view relevant updates in the current updates part. And if it's something that has been happening, over a period of time, you can also view related events pertaining to that topic in this section. Right. All the alerts are also visible on the left side of your screen on this panel. So if you happen to have missed any one alert, you can always scroll through. You can also filter all of these events if you want to get access to one particular alert that was shared a while ago. You can go back to 5 days and apply various filters, and you will directly get access to that one particular alert. Similarly, you can also do a keyword search, and based on your keyword, all the relevant hits will show up on your screen. So before I give a demonstration of all the features that are there on the right side panel of your screen, I'd like to give you a demonstration of RIME. So RIME stands for Risk Intelligence Monitoring Engine, and it's a proprietary platform that has been developed by MidCat internally. It's an artificial intelligence tool that helps, it's extremely beneficial to GSOC teams, incident response teams, and risk monitoring teams across at various organizations. So how it works is that it depends on syndicated feeds. So a number of websites, publications, social media handles, and government officials platforms are integrated into RIME. And the moment they are published, the moment the event is covered on that particular platform is when it will show up and populate on your RIME screen as well. So all of these alerts that you're currently seeing on your screen are pretty much real time. So since they're raw and real time, it's very important and essential and beneficial for events that are continuously monitoring events across various landscapes. So once you click on all of these alerts, all of these events is when you will be redirected to the parent website. One very important part of RIME is that it never ever stops populating. It's a continuous process. So in the event that a risk monitoring team or any one particular individual has missed out on monitoring for one period of time, he or she can always go back to the number of hours that was missed and apply various filters such as risk categories and relevancy. And once the filters are applied, you can get access. You will be able to download all of the missed events in the form of an Excel sheet. This is pretty much about RIME. The way that RIME differs from the various risk events that you saw on this screen, all of these diamonds that you see, is that RIME is raw feeds, and these events these alerts that you're seeing on your screen right now are the ones that have been created by MidCat's team of subject matter experts based on discretion, trend analysis, judgment, and analysis, and after thorough corroboration with at least 2 to 3 good credible sources. So I'll now move on with the features on the portal. The first one is the event archives. Every alert that MidCat's team will share will have a unique tracking ID, using which you can directly go to that one alert or one group of alerts that are linked by one topic, and you will be able to access and view all of those topics. Further, if you want to download a list of events that are a list of risk alerts that have been shared in one particular month as an entire repository, you can always add the month and that year and download it in the form of an Excel sheet. One key feature of the portal that I'd like to point out is that all of these risk alerts that you're seeing on the screen in the form of diamonds can also be downloaded in the form of a PDF for ready access as well as for internal circulation. Moving on, the next portal feature is the upcoming events. So the upcoming events is a list of all risk-related events that have been scheduled, that have been mapped and followed by MidCat's team of analysts that are going to happen in the next few days. So these are events that could have some sort of an impact on business continuity and business operations. And teams that are monitoring such events can go through this to prepare for mitigative measures. The next feature is the event calendar. This is an annual calendar that includes certain events that recur on an annual basis, of course. So these are events that could have some sort of an impact on business operations, but these are also events that happen on a very annual, regular basis. So this is shared with clients in the beginning of the year so that, measures to mitigate the impact of these events can be taken right at the beginning. You can check the country for which you want to view all of these events. And when you select it, you will be able to see all of those events. The next one is the Kaleidoscope. Now, the Kaleidoscope is more of an analytical tool that was developed by MidCat's team. It includes certain events that are recurring, that have been developing over the past few weeks and have the potential of disrupting business operations. So it includes events such as the coal crisis in 2021, September and November. It includes COVID-19, the fuel and forex crisis in Sri Lanka, for example. You can check the development and forecast of these events when you click on this, and you can go back to the 2 months prior. That is when the event started developing. The next one is the resources section. So the resource section is pretty much a repository of all the salient and relevant advisories, special advisories, special reports and risk reviews, which are both annual and semi-annual. These are all published on MidCat's portal. You can scroll through all of these, and you can also download them in the form of a PDF for internal circulation. The next section is the City Brief portal, the City Brief feature. City Briefs are essentially one-page advisories for locations across all of the world. So it includes key features for a geography, such as how the city or the state managed COVID-19, if the geography or the location is prone to civil disturbances and terrorism, the major crimes, business hubs, as well as important helpline numbers and general recommendations. Now, this is important for travel risk management, especially for business executives that are perhaps traveling to a new location and want to know, key features and risks that can be posed to them during the course of their travel. Similar to all the others, this can also be downloaded in the form of a PDF for internal circulation. The next feature is the COVID-19 dashboard. So the COVID-19 dashboard includes all relevant statistics and numbers pertaining to the COVID-19 pandemic in India. It's tracked on a daily basis using only official government sources. So all the information that you're currently seeing is corroborated through official government websites. Once you scroll down, you will also be able to see the key statistics for metro cities and states. And of course, these also can be downloaded in the form of a PDF. But importantly, apart from the salient statistics that are updated on a daily basis, you can also view the various implemented measures for all metro cities and states across India. In light of the dynamic regulatory environment, due to the third wave of the pandemic. So for organizations to be in compliance with this dynamic regulatory environment, this is, a very essential feature of the COVID-19 dashboard. The next is the query response mechanism. Now, this is something that we consider to be a USP of our portal, because if a client has to ask something pertaining to a risk event that's going to develop over the next few days, or if it's something pertaining to the changing regulatory environment, any kind of query that a client may have can be posted on the query response mechanism. And MidCat's team of analysts that is monitoring all the events across the globe 24/7 will get back to you at the very earliest. So I'll move ahead to the last feature of the portal. And this is something that is considered very, very important and very beneficial to organizations, because the risk exposure feature of the COVID-19 of the MidCat portal essentially quantifies the risk that has been posed to organizations either in the recent past, over the last week, and as well as in the last month. So right now, the quantification that you're seeing on your screen, that is 1.83, has been aggregated automatically by MidCat's portal, which is a smart feature. And this is not done, by itself. It's not doing calculations based on its own opinions. It is being done based on a matrix that we have developed at MidCat. So all the events that have been created, all the alerts that are shared, are scaled at events that have a very low risk, that are 0 to 1. Now, these events are those events that are unlikely to affect businesses in the large scale. And there are also events that are very high risk. So take, for example, the Russia and Ukraine conflict right now. Now, these are events that are, going to affect business operations and perhaps even cause closure of business offices. So these are events that have been scaled at 4 to 5. So based on all the events, all the alerts that are shared over the last few days, that are the current events, the portal has aggregated all of these risks to be a 1.83 that you're seeing on your screen right now. This can also be mapped individually for various asset locations across the world. This part of the risk exposure portal, risk exposure feature, shows the distribution of risks that have been posed in the recent past, that is current events. So COVID-19 has been one of the most important and the most and the main disruptor over the past few weeks and the month in India, especially. So regulatory environment, travel risks, as well as health risks, of course, that you can see on your screen right now, have been one of the main risks that have been posed. Lastly, on the right side of your screen is where you can see the top risks that have been posed based on the category, as well as the topic. So COVID-19, Ukraine crisis, and anti-vaccine protests, for example, are some of the events that have affected organizations in the last few days. So this, of course, I'd like everyone to note, this is a brief demonstration of the portal. There are various other aspects that also, that we have integrated into the portal. And for a more detailed demonstration of the risk tracker portal, you can definitely get in touch with our organization, and the contact details for the same will be posted in the chat box soon. This brings an end to the demonstration of the portal from my end. And thanks a lot for everything.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Atreya, for finishing before time, actually. So I would take this time to reiterate once again that for availing the handbook, please refer to our LinkedIn page or our website for downloading. And for getting access, customized access to our AI assisted portal, please refer to the chat box. The contact details has been shared over there. So we will now move on to our next session. And I would ask Kunal, could you please share the screen? Yeah, okay, thank you so much. So now we move on to our panel discussion second, that is on women in security, that will be moderated by Colonel Sushil Pradhan. Colonel Sushil Pradhan, who is the Executive Director and Chief Operating Officer at MidCat, is a distinguished military veteran and an accredited trainer with the United Nations. Colonel Sushil Pradhan has led complex security operational logistic audit and training assignments in Europe, Africa, Middle East, Iraq, and Myanmar, and has been a frequent speaker in various industry forums. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Madhura. And it was really great to hear the first panel discussion. And I was so enthused by the panelists and the way it was moderated by Aparna. And before we go on to my panel, actually, I'd like to inform you all that at MidCat, we have a huge team of analysts who are part of our Intel services and headed by Aparna. And what is remarkable in terms of composition of that team is 80% of them are women. And we are so proud that they are there purely on their own ability, on their own capability. And it's not that we have a dedicated program to have more women on that team. They're just there because they are so good. So Aparna and team, hats off to you guys. And I think you deserve an applause in any case, whether or not anyone gives it to you. I always do. So thank you so much. And now I'd like to move on to introduce our panelists for the second session, which is going to be on women in security and loss prevention. I'm just waiting for a few of my panelists to join in, but I have, I think, most of them here. So I'll start by introducing them one by one. And as and when I finish your introductions, I'll request you all, anyways, to Rekha, I'll request you to switch on your camera, and others as well. Keep your cameras on during the discussion. Once I introduce you, please unmute yourself and say hello to the audience. And let me start by introducing Jaya. So Jaya is here. Jaya is heading the corporate security for UBS in India and is the lead for the UBS offshore delivery centers in Asia Pacific. She's been with UBS for almost 8 years. She's got a cumulative experience of about 15 years in corporate security, crisis management, and the associated resilience functions. She's also worked at Telenor Group, the First Advantage Quest Research. She's worked with Control Risk Groups and TACT India. She's got an MBA in marketing, holds a degree in security management from the Edith Cowan University in Australia, and Jaya was also one of the top 5 nominees for the International Safety Champion of the Year award by the British Safety Council UK in 2013. Great to have somebody with these accomplishments on our panel. Hi Jaya, welcome to the discussion.
Hi, thank you so much. And I'm very privileged to be on this panel. There are a lot of fantastic women here who I didn't know of before. So it's great to know there are so many more talented women in security, and I think way to go for all of us. And I hope we can get so many more, you know, and have a little bit more of us here. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. The next panelist is Rebecca. I think Rebecca is already familiar to you because she delivered the keynote address. But for those of you who joined late, Rebecca Drilling is the Assistant Regional Security Officer at the US Consulate General in Mumbai. She joined the Department of State as a Special Agent for the Diplomatic Services, Security Services in 2014. She's done multiple criminal investigations towards protecting the US Secretary of State, the US UN Ambassador, and several foreign dignitaries during her first assignment in Washington. Thereafter, she was in the US Embassy in Baghdad, and she was also in the US Embassy in Guatemala City, where she oversaw the criminal investigations, and as well as for apprehending fugitives and returning them to face justice in the United States. So really impressive credentials for somebody in the field of security. Welcome, Rebecca, and great to have you on the panel as well.
Thank you so much. And I'm so happy to be here with all of you.
Yeah. The next is Sahima. Sahima Datta is the Country Security Manager for India, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka in Royal Dutch Shell, which is obviously, you all know, it's a leading global energy company. She's been an officer of the 1992 Civil Services. She spent 20 years in the Central Industrial Security Force, or the CISF as it is known in India, the world's largest and the only paramilitary industrial security solutions provider. And she also did a stint as a civilian police officer with the United Nations in Kosovo in 2005-06. In her 8 years of corporate security, she has predominantly worked in the oil and gas sector and has been instrumental for setting up enterprise security solutions, corporate security, security consulting, and corporate social responsibility as well. So welcome, Sahima, and it's great to have you once again on one of our panels.
Thank you, Sushil, so very much. I'm always so glad to be a part of anything that MidCat does. Thank you very much.
I'm waiting for Sanjay to join in, but when he does, I'll introduce him. We also have with us Sudhir Anandnath, who's the Director, Security and Loss Prevention for India Customer Fulfillment Operations for Amazon. He's been a security management professional with more than 20 years of experience in corporate security and risk management, out of which he spent 7 years in the Indian Army, then worked with the amazing diversity of companies like Union Bank of India, State Bank of India, ICICI Bank, Nokia, Ericsson, Mondelez, and now he's with Amazon. So he's going to be here on the panel as well. Hi, Sudhir.
Very much for having me here, and I'm really pleased to be part of this initiative. Thank you so much, and looking forward to learn from other panelists here. Thank you so much.
Thanks. We also have Sanjay, who's joined us. So Sanjay is the Global Security Head at Wipro, a former Indian Army captain with 26 plus years of professional experience in the field of corporate security, geopolitical risk analysis, business continuity, and various other associated services. He's a certified physical security professional with extensive facility management experience also in top MNCs. He's a certified lead auditor in information security management systems and a certified security training assessor. With 17 years of corporate experience, he's worked with Nestle, GE, American Express, IBM Global Processing Services, and now with Wipro. Welcome, Sanjay. Great to have somebody with your credentials on this panel as well. Sanjay, you're on mute. Request you to unmute yourself.
Thank you very much for this interesting introduction. Pleasure to be with you for this very, very interesting and relevant subject.
Thank you so much. We have Rekha. Rekha Garola works at Boeing India as a regional security advisor for India and South Asia. With 20 years plus of experience, she's worked in various industries like banking, logistics, financial, aviation, and aerospace, and she brings a good mix of expertise in her domain. With a plethora of certifications, which I'm not going to list out, she is also a true bank of knowledge. In her own words, she says, time to focus on equity when we talk about diversity. That's great, Rekha, and so nice to have you on this panel. And if you can just say a quick hello to the audience.
Hi, Sushil. Hello, everyone. And I would say, I'm just so looking forward to, exchange my views and just, have this wonderful discussion. So thank you again.
Yeah. And last but not the least, we have Vashita. Vashita is the country head of security for Marsh McLennan. Vashita is a former Indian Army officer who served 9 years in the Indian Army, and I have had the pleasure of serving in the same station with her in our younger days. She's had over 20 years of experience in various aspects of corporate security, risk assessments, executive protection, executive security, everything, you name it, and she's done it, including fire safety, first aid, threat operations, and response. Vashita is the first woman in India to have achieved the ACES Triple Crown certification, which is really creditable. And she has also been featured on the ACES International blog post about this. In 2020, she was felicitated by Dr. Kiran Bedi for being the top 20 women security professionals in India. That is huge, and was also featured in the top 50 successful women in India. And her corporate work experience includes working for prestigious organizations like Microsoft, Flipkart, Uber, Concentrix, and Bharti Retail, all big names. So Vashita, such a pleasure and an honor to have you on this panel as well.
Such an honor and a pleasure for me, sir, to be on this panel and sharing the screen with you and such esteemed, brilliant men and women. Looking forward to it.
Thank you, Vashita. And without wasting any time, I'm just going to jump straight into the discussion. So we have 7 panelists. So we are going to be going one by one, and then we'll take questions if there's time, and we'll take on some cross questions if there's time. So in no particular sequence, I shall just go to each panelist one by one. And what I would request you to do is, whatever we are discussing, please give the audience examples from your personal and professional life so that they take that message home as a story and not just as a sermon. So I think let's go first to Vashita, since I introduced her last. Vashita, corporate security has always been a tough field for women to break into. Do you feel that you had resistance initially? Do you think the men in the industry went out of their way to be either repressive or supportive? And just to connect with that and bring it to today, do you think that there is really genuine acceptance now, or is there still any undercurrent of reluctance in the support which is provided?
Thanks, sir. Thanks for asking the question. And this topic is, as you know, very close to my heart. What I'd like to start by saying is that security as a field is absolutely doable, right? Anyone with the aligned mindset can get into security and make a career out of it, notwithstanding whether they are ex-military or not, man or woman. Like any other domain, if you have the passion for, you will excel in this. It's not rocket science. So the problem is not security as a domain. The problem is with the perception of security. For the longest time, it has been perceived as a man's domain by men and women alike. So what happened in the past was that men didn't expect women to join, and women didn't actually want to join also, right? Because it was so male dominated. But then a few years back, some trail blazing women, the ones you see on this screen, said, why not security? And that's when the status quo kind of changed. So was there reluctance initially? Oh, yeah, absolutely. There was. And things like diversity, equity, inclusion were not as prominent that time as they are today, right? This was not an everyday talk happening. I'm talking about 10, 15 years back. So there was stereotyping, subconscious bias starting from the first stage of hiring. Recruiters didn't know whether they should hire or interview women in security because they didn't know whether the client will accept it. Corporate leaders in security didn't know that whether they should make women a part of the team because they said, there's so many complications that this will bring in and so many things. So there was this kind of a mindset. For me personally, like you said, give examples. So I won't go into examples, but those initial years in security were quite a challenge. And not because of actually my shortcomings, but because of the person sitting in front of me with a certain kind of a subconscious set-in bias, right? But there's a flip side to every situation, and there is no scenario which can be 100% generalization to stereotype a complete set of population. In this case, aka men, right? So I have had the good fortune to have had some great men as my managers who have guided me, mentored me, encouraged me, advised me. And actually, if where I am today is absolutely because of those men who kind of, made me or molded me into what I am today as a professional. And two names which come to my mind like this as of now is when I was working in Concentrics, there was Colonel Avtar Singh. What a brilliant gem of a man. And my present manager, Dan Mead. Again, maybe because he's a Westerner, so this concept of women in security is not there much, right? So I've learned so much from them and I continue to learn. To answer the other part of your question, is there genuine acceptance now? Well, diplomacy is not my forte, so I'll just say it out as it is, right? The Indian psyche still has a lot to evolve with respect to diversity, equity, inclusion, differentiation. Maybe it's because of centuries of conditioning within us, or maybe there's a set of people who still feel it's a man's domain. I'm not sure. But things are absolutely changing in the last 10, 15 years that I have been in the field. But the fact is that all of us, men and women alike, need to be consciously start building in a self-check system to ensure that we negate stereotypes and encourage a culture of inclusivity, equity within ourselves, within our teams, and also to encourage the next generation with that mindset. So guys, women are here to stay and our tribe will only grow. So I'm hoping that in the coming years, we look towards a change in this scenario. I hope I answered all your questions there.
Thanks, Vashita. And I think let's let people take that message home very strongly that women are here to stay and they're not going away, and they're going to grow and they're going to get better, and they're going to be more of them in this field, I'm sure, in times to come. but I'll come back to you later if we have a little time left for some cross questioning. But the next person that I'd like to get to is Rebecca. Rebecca, I know you did talk about this in your keynote address, but just wanted to understand a little bit more. And specifically, you mentioned in India. So is there an increasing representation of women in the field of physical security and safety? If so, is this completely competence driven, or is it also partially because of the need for organizations to have greater diversity in the workforce? I know this was talked about in the previous panel as well in the when they referred to the field of intelligence. Now I'm talking of hardcore physical security. Do you think people are there because they are capable of being there, or is it also that organizations are trying to appear more diverse and hence get more people in?
So definitely a two-part question, and I'm very happy to share some of my observations, of course. I definitely believe that there are more women in the field of physical security and safety now. Obviously, the world is changing, and we are dealing with a much more dynamic environment than maybe, let's say, our parents' prior generations, right? We definitely see more women in the field of security, but I think where we have an issue is retention. So we are recruiting, we are trying to get more women, we are trying to get more minorities, but how do we keep women, how do we keep minorities in the field so that they want to stay, that this is a welcoming environment for them, right? And so that comes into, as I spoke about allies, how do we support people to make this a palatable career choice for them? Flexibility in schedules, right? Especially for women, just because we intrinsically have very diverse needs, especially because things are still traditional, not only in India, but worldwide. Women are still the primary caregivers. We still are expected to do the lion's share, the majority of homework, like the work at home. So are we flexible in scheduling? Are we flexible in allowing, or making that available for women to go home and care for their families, especially with schooling, with elder care, whatever else, as well as safety issues, right? What time are we sending people home? Around the world, not just India, it's not the safest for women to be walking home alone at night. How do we make that, or how do we ensure that our team is still safe and able to do their jobs efficiently and effectively? But on top of that as well, and so as I spoke about, we have flexible work schedules for our female staff, for our female guards, making sure that it works for them when they can get childcare, and then we adjust their shift work schedules, but also ensuring that they're not working late at night if they choose not to. It is always an option. We always make it available, but everyone needs to take into account their own safety and security. And so it's not forced upon people that you have to work the night shift if you are not comfortable doing so. Additionally, yes, definitely probably most of us were diversity hires. I can definitely say that my agency was very happy to hire me, a Black female in the United States, to tick, all those boxes to say, look who we have available to us. But not just that, I believe that all of these organizations and agencies are seeing the benefit of having women in security. I do physical security. I normally carry a gun when I am doing protection. If I have a female protectee, which I've had several, I'm the one who goes into the bathroom and makes sure that the environment is safe. If we are having a female only meeting, it is not welcome to have a man in there. I can provide that safety and security so that they are not at a disadvantage, or there's not vulnerability there. But even in India, looking at the she teams that have been started, and this is, thankfully a concept that is not just here, but I saw this happening in Iraq as well when I was there. Having a team of women who are dedicated to dealing with community issues, areas where men are not welcome still, right? So having that entry into your own community where you can deal with issues that are intrinsically based on women and children, where women are going to feel more comfortable talking to another woman that they're not going to see with another man. Are we able to get those convictions based on statements that we're able to receive from other women because they're comfortable talking to us, and thus creating a safer environment just for the wider community as well? And so I think that all plays a part and we are seeing the benefit of that, but retention really is key. And so even in my own organization, it doesn't always work to have a family, or it doesn't work for your family dynamic, and people, try to make it happen. Doesn't always, but thankfully for me and my family, we're doing it and we're here. And, this is an example for other women to come after me, that we are fighting the fight to make this possible. So, yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca. That was really good. And I like the examples that you gave about women being able to do some things in the field of physical security that would be very uncomfortable, or I would say even restrictive for men to enter into. So thanks. And, taking off from there, we'll move on to the associated part of the equation, where Rekha, if you could just touch upon what are the unique qualities that women in corporate security have that really differentiates from their male peers, and how do these qualities contribute to the benefit of the organization? I know we heard some of this in the previous panel, which was more related to Intel. Now, again, like I said, we are talking hardcore physical security. So what are your views?
Yeah, thanks, Sushil. I mean, this is, like I said, my favorite quote again, when I talk about diversity, is never about just equality. I normally talk about, and just to add on what Vashita and Rebecca, both of these wonderful ladies said, this question on, the unique qualities that women in corporate security have that differentiates them from their male peers, and how these qualities contribute. Now, if you ask me, we have all the answers there in the question. And the irony is that, it's such a contradictory question itself. We're talking about unique qualities, gender-based unique qualities. And if you ask me, I seriously, I do not have any list or something that I can really share here on this particular portal platform that would talk about gender associated qualities. Now, for me, gender is such a personal and private thing for me that any qualities associated with my gender, that's very private. I do not think I want to talk about on, this platform, my, qualities. I think it is mostly on, it's not I think, it is mostly on your merit, your skill set, and equity. Now, I think what is lacking is that opportunity, which is not available, which was not available. Vashita spoke about the status quo, and that status quo is changing. I'm glad it is changing. But then again, look at, I think it's a very cliche kind of question, unique qualities. And what is happening today is that women, they are really under pressure because they're trying to figure out what that unique quality they can bring to table, or maybe during the interview, in front of the interview board, which would, differentiate themselves from, rest of the male colleagues. I think it is time to just move the needle, right? We should talk about what skill set you have rather than what gender-based unique qualities you have, because that's the only way that we can progress further, right? And if we're talking about, again, unique qualities, gender-based, I have many. I think I have that knack for, bring out that fun and that colorful thing. But again, is it really going to help in that security culture? Or are we just talking about, the gender diversity, maybe to correct our diversity figures in the corporate? But, if we are doing it, where are we keeping the quality and the skill set? So we have to have that balance wherein, of course, we need to promote, but not on, not at the stake of the quality. I mean, you opened with a very wonderful quote wherein you said that this Intel team of yours have 80% of women, and you admitted that, it was on merit, right? No unique qualities. I am not in favor of any unique qualities. I'm in favor of giving that opportunity and get the right person there on the table. Gender, it's very private, just keep it separate. And I think that's the problem, that we keep talking about gender, women, gender. I think what all we women need is that opportunity. Our gender is a very personal thing, and your gender is very personal thing. What about the third gender? So I would say that this is the time to talk about, the merit, skill set. And again, like I said, it's time to move the needle, and maybe it's time to just revise this question. Instead of talking about unique qualities. Let us talk about the stereotyping. Let us talk about what is that we really need to fix, so that we can provide that conducive environment to everyone, that equal opportunity that we are looking for. So I think that's my take on this.
Thanks, Rekha. That's a very refreshing take on this stereotyped question, like we said. And it's also echoed by what Rebecca said, that, we need to prove ourselves as equally capable. And I think that's where we stand. So I would now like to, touch Sanjay with a question. Sanjay has been in this field of corporate security for so many years, over 2.5 decades now. So Sanjay, you've seen the transition of physical security over a period of 2.5 decades. And traditionally, physical security was always about guns, guards, and gates, which was always, like Vashita mentioned, seen or perceived as a domain of men. In your opinion, in your experience through so many organizations, what has changed now, and what enables more and more women to enter this domain and be successful there?
Thank you for that interesting question, Sushil. Appreciate that. So, you're right that traditionally it was all about guns, guards, and gates. Starting from ancient times, more roles were performed in war by men than women. Although Rani Lakshmibai changed that narrative for everybody. But coming to the corporate side, there was a perceived, unconscious bias that was sitting in the head of men, that this is their domain and women cannot do the job that they are doing. And that was causing a big barrier for entry of women into the corporate security vertical, which was resisting. Coupled with it was the other factor that there was no formal education and academic qualifications associated with the security roles. Mostly people came from a uniformed service background, which was again, male dominated, in terms of the structure that they had. That is changing now. The government is taking interest, while there is a long journey to, travel on this one. But that was second reason, because most people came from that background, so they automatically, absorbed into the corporate security vertical and created that space for themselves. Now, what is changing is there are many universities which are offering academic programs in homeland security, corporate security. There are private certifications by industry bodies, and a lot of young talent, women are, taking up those courses, whether it's a forensic sciences course or a security course or even a geopolitical course. And the security vertical has expanded, over a period of time. So earlier there was a shoestring budget, just look at the guard management and perimeter protection and end of it. Now security plays a very, very vital role on the high table, and everybody looks at security risks, geopolitical risk, and the safety of people. And security plays a very, very credible role on crisis management, business continuity, and reputation building also. So what is happening is, with this increased expansion in scope, a lot of women are coming from background in international relations who look at geopolitics. People are getting certified and getting to the operational side of roles. There is a lot of adaptation of technology in security. So the cyber and physical side are literally converging in a sense, because most security systems are also on IP networks now. So ladies coming from cyber security background wanting to migrate to physical security, the role is open for them. And there is a change mindset in employer also, because now there is this term that they use, we are an equal opportunity employer, and it sits on the sustainability agenda of the corporations. So to drive that, it's very important that the recruitment practices are getting shaped, and they look at the narrative in terms of having diversity in the teams, including corporate security vertical. And this is good. It's a very good change. Women do bring a lot of value on table when they are part of physical security teams. They are very sensitive to employees. They are very intuitive. They are very creative, and they have technical excellence. So they bring a lot on the table in terms of value addition. And the earlier the men remove those shackles, better for them to grow the function into an excellent rounded corporate security vertical. There are challenges for sure. So now more women, you see in this panel also, senior leadership in so many companies being represented by women. In fact, apart from the moderator, which is you, the men represented on this panel today are in minority. So things are changing for sure, and it's visible through this panel also. And they are promising times ahead, and more and more women should be mentored, encouraged to get into this profession through forums like this, and various other concepts which can be conveyed to break this self-imposed unconscious bias.
Thank you.
We must look at that very, very positive, because if you don't include diversity in your teams, you will be left behind in the race.
No, but very well connected. And when you said break the bias, and I also echo Rekha's statement again, that the people who are here today, or the women who are here in the industry, are there on their own ability and not because they were hired for any diversity program. They are there because they were good and they were seen as capable and competent. And I'm glad industry leaders like you, who are in the field of security for so long, are echoing this so loudly and clearly. And you mentioned something about support and women supporting each other in the industry. And that's something which I want to take up with Sahima, because I know she's been, this is one of her key roles which she sees for herself. So Sahima, women who are already doing well in the field of security, are they adequately supporting those who've just entered or are about to enter this field? What more can they do in terms of mentorship, guidance, opportunities, both within the organization and in the overall environment?
Sushil, thank you very much. I was expecting you to, I usually expect this question, what do men can do for women? And I'm always ready with my 10 points to give a lecture to all the men, it's in the back of my head always. I've been doing this for 10 years now, lecturing men and what to do for women, But today I am so glad that you're asking me what women can do for women, because I really think that this is the moment that this should change. Women now should stop looking outside for allies. Women should hold each other's hand. Women should have networks where every security young professional women professional coming into this profession, when she looks over her shoulder, can very confidently say and has the knowledge that, oh yes, I have a Varshita behind my back. I have a Ila behind my back. I have a Sahima. I have a Rebecca backing me. When will this happen? Men do it all the time with each other. We need to stand up for all young people coming together, all young women professionals coming into this profession. Are we there yet? I don't think so. Let me call it out. We have taken baby steps. And we will get there because we broke these barriers 10, 15 years back when people like Varshita, me, we stepped into it. Rekha, who's not even in the uniform, came into this. She's a giant in this field of security, So all of us have done our bit to come into this profession to break these gendered structured biases in organizations. We have gendered structured biases in society, in culture, but these have seeped into the organizations and we have broken them. Maybe it was easier for me and Varshita because we already wore the uniform and it was easy to break, but I'm sure for people like Jaya, Rekha, and Ila, Shraddha, it was not very easy. They broke these biases despite the fact that they were not in uniform. So what I think is the first enabler or the first thing that us as women leaders should do is to be seen and heard. Raise your voice, girls, women. You have to have your voice heard, not only in panels like Women in Security or in panels where, where the D&I quotient needs to be a little filled up. But in panels where you speak on security strategy, the future of security, on technology, AI, cybersecurity, in professional domains, be heard. And once you are heard in those domains, the first thing is that everybody will look up to you, women or men. There is a leader, there is a person who knows. All of us have spoken about merit, that we don't want this job because I'm a woman. I want this job because I know the job and I can do the job. And that is the first thing that we as women have to be enablers in walking the walk, in walking the talk. We should not say, oh, I'm a woman, give me this job. We should say, we should show our competencies. That is one of the biggest enablers, okay? The second big enabler is networks. I have seen throughout my journey that how strong male bonding is, how strong male networks are, and I don't blame the male. Traditionally, they have always stepped out of the house and built these networks. It is so easy for a male to just reach out to another male and say, let's go and have a coffee. Let's build this network, And also, especially in women in the security profession, again, I don't blame the men. Historically, it's been a men's domain, and the uniform culture is a brotherhood culture. It is a culture of bonding among bros, among alpha male. So I really, really don't criticize them, but that has seeped into the corporate security culture, this male bonding. So now I think it is time for us to create this female bonding, the female alpha, as I would say. And here I would really, really thank MidCat, because I think WISER is the first non-ACES women formal platform ever given to the women. And women out there in this call, who's listening to me, who's part of the panel, use and abuse this platform. Make use of this platform to hold each other's hands. What stops us from just calling out each other and say, let's go and have a coffee? What stops a young lady professional, female professional, to come to the WISER WhatsApp group and say, hey, I'm applying for this job. Can one of you help me through the interview? And why don't we all get together and help this person? This is what I'm talking about. This is what males do for each other, male professionals do for each other. It's time to do that for each other, And I would be so glad to do this, to help any one of you. So the question comes to mentees, which mentoring and mentees, Sushil has also mentioned this in his questions. Let us pledge today that each one of us will have at least one mentee. Can we do that? Can we have one women mentee who will push through and support her through thick and thin? Let's do that today. I mean, any one of you in this open forum, I tell you, reach out to me. I'll be so glad to be your mentor. And I will support you through thick and thin. And I think all of us can do that. Okay, let's use the networks to create awareness about these inherent barriers that Rekha has talked about, Varshita has talked about, Rebecca has talked about, Sanjay has talked about. Make these networks, use these networks, speak about it. Also make the gendered structures in society and organizations which are so invisible, visible, so that people don't hesitate to talk about it. I should be able to call out any gendered bias. As Sanjay said, break the bias, speak about the bias is the first step towards the bias. I would say one step forward, go beyond mentoring. Get a sponsor for the young lady professional you see who is promising. Get a business leader to sponsor her, who will back her in her promotion, who will back her, who will recognize her talent. And I say this because I am a beneficiary of that. In my own organization, I've had sponsors who have backed me in every step that I have taken. And I today take this forum to announce that I will be moving ahead in Shell, and I'm moving on to Hague. Okay. And this is because I have got a sponsor. Somebody backed me, somebody saw the talent, somebody pulled me up, and I see this very essential for the development of a woman. Okay. There are D&I structures in every part of your business. Leverage that to get that into your security organization. Ask a business leader to come and speak on D&I to your security colleagues. Have focused recruitments. Make a condition. I mean, these are certain random out-of-box, thinking which is coming to my mind. Have at least one women candidate who is shortlisted for every interview. Have policies like that. Be an advocate of those policies. Be a lobby within your own organization. Be a lobbyist. Lobby for those kind of policies, And that's what I say. And last but not, Sushil, I'll give you my quote. It's time for security professionals to move away from the strong image, from the traditional image of the strong man associated with gun, gates, guards, and showcase themselves with skill sets, which include soft skills, inclusiveness, and a gender neutral digital mindset. March 8 is here. Let's drown gendered structures with the slogan hashtag break the bias. Over to you, Sushil.
Thank you, Saima. That was very powerful. And I know you for sure that you are one person who's always been mentoring women in this field. And I'm sure the others have heard this loud and clear. And I'm sure they're doing it in their own ways, but this is a shout out to them to do it more visibly now, more professionally, and also very good advice to the young people who are watching this program, this show, this event, to say that, okay, reach out, and we'll come to that towards the end of this event. And everyone, please congratulate her for her promotion and moving to The Hague in a global role. So congratulations, Saima. Great job.
Thank you very much.
You mentioned technology. Sanjay also mentioned technology, and that's what I'm going to talk to Jaya about. Jaya, how do you see the role of women in the coming few years, and how has technology changed the way things are going to be done? Does that present greater opportunities for women? Will futuristic technology-led security become a more level playing field and become more gender neutral because you are getting out of that zone of physical toughness and getting into technologically enabled security?
So I'll first move with the role of women in security in the coming years. We've already spoken a lot about it. We know the needle has shifted a little bit. We can already see so many women in the security profession, their contribution over the years. Obviously, predominantly, it has been dominated by men. And like Sanjay already said, primarily the security industry had men from the uniformed services and from law enforcement, transitioning into that field. But what we're seeing today, like we saw in the earlier panel as well on resilience and corporate intelligence, a lot of women in allied industries related to physical security are also making their way into the physical security domain. And I would be a perfect example of that. I'm a civilian. I haven't had the privilege of being from the uniformed services. I don't have a background in law enforcement either. I started my way in background screening, moved to due diligence, did a degree course in security management, like you said initially, and then I moved into hardcore security operations. And the funny thing here is that I've obviously had some fantastic mentors, on the way. I've been blessed to have some fantastic bosses, whether it was the Telenor Group and currently with UBS, I've been there 8 years now. I mean, you can understand one of the reasons of being there. So I was also there probably 12, 13 years ago doing physical security per se. And I would say that initially it was one of my female bosses who was most hesitant to hire me for the role. And she said, "You really think she can do this?" And we were not just managing physical security in my previous organization. We had an umbrella of things that we were doing. We were handling safety and security. We were handling physical security. We were handling crisis management. So there were a lot of things that we were doing. Project management, because at that time the Telenor Group was coming up with a lot of offices, and we were setting up shop in India. So we did a lot of project management for security. Where's the camera going to come? How many cameras are we going to have? Are we going to have dual authentication or single authentication? Which vendors are we going to meet? So there are a lot of things that we were doing. So I would say that a lot of these, yes, diversity and inclusion is helping women get their foot through the door, like Rebecca gave her example. But if you're not talented and if you are not very good with what you do, you're not going to stick around for too long. And the women that are on this panel and who've been on the other panel, they're all examples of credible women who are doing fantastically well in this domain today. And there is still a shortage of women leaders. I will still agree. We need to have so many more. But the situation is changing for the better. It is going to get, even further. And the ideas that Sahima has given to be mentees and, to find more women and, kind of promote them, that is definitely the way to go. And with regards to technology, obviously, like I said, technology and how Sanjay also mentioned the convergence of physical and cybersecurity. We're also talking about facial recognition, AI, and all these kind of technological changes in the security field, which is allowing people from very different domains to move into security. And this is definitely not, gender specific. This is very gender neutral. Any man or woman who is capable, who is mobile, who is tech savvy, and who's able to thrive in this new technology platform of security and do a few of the other traditional things also that you were doing, I think they are going to excel. And doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. So I would like to say that, and I would actually like to thank these two organizations where I've spent, I think, almost more than 50% of my career, the Swiss Bank as well as Telenor Group. They were the first ones to have the courage and the forward thinkingness to add a woman to their team. I remember I was the only security manager in 14 male security managers way back in 2009 in the Telenor Group. And when we had our first forum, I had most of my male colleagues just look at me and wonder, what the hell is she doing here? Sorry to use the language, but majority of them are fantastic colleagues, friends over the years. They've appreciated the way I looked at things, which was very different from their way of looking at things, because they come from a particular structure, a particular way of conditioned thinking, being from the armed forces or from the uniformed services. So yes, we do bring unique things to the table. We are going to have a lot more women coming in here, like in all other places of work, not just security. And I think we're here to stay, and we definitely should help others who want to come in. So thank you so much.
Thanks. Yeah. And you know what you said about women having special qualities, that conflicts a bit or contradicts a bit what Rekha said, where so if we have time, we'll take this up
yes.
for another
I think
round.
naturally we have certain qualities like multitasking and crisis management.
We'll wait for that.
We'll try
But
and
I
come
have
back to
another
that.
panelist waiting to make his views heard, and that is Sudhir. So Sudhir, security and loss prevention has actually traditionally been a male-dominated field. I want to hear your views, and especially because you've been in such diverse organizations, right, from banking and now into e-commerce and things like that. How do we get more women into this field? How do we get more women into the leadership positions? And broadly, you are from a massive global organization. What are these huge global organizations doing well that we can do in India and in Asian region to bring more women into the security workforce?
Thank you very much. I think the rest of the panel has empathetically brought in those points. I don't know. I'll be just reinforcing it. We know that the most important thing I pick up is nothing succeeds like success, and the evidence is here. So I think we are a great. I trust that particular aspect very well. We need to demonstrate more successes. That is something we can really bring in breakthroughs, and this motivates other women leaders, to say that, okay, we have so many examples in front of us. And this also reinforces the faith in larger organizations that saying that, okay, this model is working and is working for one organization, why not for others? So this is something which really would change the landscape in loss prevention space. And I'll give you a simple example. When we started this a few years back, and the most toughest thing probably I will speak about what I've seen within my team, is that interviewing a truck driver. Okay, so we can visualize what happens when you talk to a truck driver. There is no set rules there. And what I realized is, after a few months, and I was checking back on certain things, and one of my team members came up and mentioned that the best interviewer in our team is one of our women colleagues, especially with drivers. And she doesn't take more than 10 minutes to crack the discussion and get what is required from that person. So this is really breaking the traditional thought process of people saying that, okay, can this be done? And it's a very, very empathetic thing, I would say, in terms of reinforcing that confidence in everybody. I'm just taking a simple example. There are several others, because this is very easy to relate, because it's one of the toughest thing people do, at least for all my colleagues. So if somebody is saying that this person is excelling in that particular aspect, that's one thing which breaks all the traditional thought processes or biases that we all have in mind. So just giving that particular aspect as one success story that I've come across. Then moving on, there are really tough space, like the talent pool is very limited. So when it comes to building it, it's all about having that patience and long-term thinking. And many organizations are now capable of doing that, because this is a function which gained really, has grown really big. And there is a lot of expectation, like the diverse fields that was spoken by one of the panelists about, how diverse is this particular field itself. So we need people over a period of for long term. So that will happen only when we start identifying talent and mentoring them. And there was a lot that has already been said about picking up mentorship or being a mentee for the newcomers. So that is really, really important. And there's conscious effort that is required. So the transition challenges that we have come across in some cases is that loss prevention, and I will speak about that because there are a lot of other discussions, other panelists have spoken about those areas. But with loss prevention, the challenges are like the transition, in one case, which I mentioned about the truck driver, that transition is not very easy. Now it requires you to have that confidence. If I am biased, I cannot think about my team taking that decision or reposing that faith on a new team member. And I've seen this in both cases, both men and women. So though there's no differentiation. So we need to make those conscious choices of saying that, okay, if the leaders are prepared to invest, their team will do the right things. And that has to happen. That has to be the tradition, and that should be the culture that we need to develop. And we will see this very, very effectively in global organizations now, because there's a lot of focus on diversity, inclusion, and equity, and various other initiatives. And it's not a favor that anybody is doing for anybody else. If there is a focus on diverse teams, it is because they give the best results for the organization. And it's not, organizations are not doing any favor. So let's leverage that and take those chances, and also take those decisions which are right at this moment, so that we are able to build such initiatives and measure the impact of these diverse teams that can deliver, the diverse team can deliver. And that will bring in more confidence in terms of taking such positive actions, affirmative actions, which is required for this space. And organizations are also doing a lot to sensitize and educate their leaders to create this inclusive work environment where all type of diverse cohorts should coexist, and including women. Now, the focus on women is so high because it's visible to us. Other diverse cohorts are not that visible. So the discussions, when we speak about diversity, invariably it talks about gender diversity, which is not right. And so there are conscious efforts in large organizations, including us, in this domain, to say that how do we break this glass ceiling, if I can call it. So there's a lot we are doing, and I'm sure that after listening to the panel, the colleagues on this panel or peers in this panel, it gives me so much of confidence saying that we are set on the right course. And maybe 2 years or 3 years down the line, when we have a similar panel discussion, probably the discussions would be completely different.
Thank you.
And
thanks, Sudhir.
Thank you so much.
That is really good. And we are going to have these events at least once a year for sure. So we need to see evolution of the thought process. And I think very interesting concepts came up during the discussion. We do not have time for more questions, but I would like to just sum up here by saying that a lot of interesting concepts came up about equal abilities, mentorship, providing opportunities through a dedicated diversity program, recognizing that women are equal in the field of corporate security, use of technology to provide equal opportunities, and so many more things which we heard today. Thank you so much, all the panelists, for such candid and vociferous views, I would say, candid and vociferous both. And really appreciate that you took a personal stand, gave a personal example each time to justify what you were saying. Look forward to hearing all of you in more such forums. And thank you so much, audience, for being so patient with us. And if you have any questions for the panelists, please put it on the Q&A box. I'm sure they'll respond. Madhura, I'm sorry for taking a little bit of extra time, but it was really energizing to hear all these industry leaders. Thank you so much. Please give them a big round of applause.
Okay, thank you so much to all the panelists for holding such a strong panel discussion, and special thanks to Colonel Pradhan for moderating and curating such a wonderful session. And yes, we have not gone beyond time. So special thanks for that as well to the entire panel. And now moving forward, I would request, Kunal to please share the screen. Thank you so much. Okay, so with that spirit, we will move to our panel discussion third, that is Women in Resilience, that will be moderated by Mitesh Shah. Mitesh Shah is the Regional Director at MidCat Global Consulting in Singapore. He is the subject matter expert in the field of organizational resilience, business continuity management, and enterprise risk management. He has over 12 years of experience in consulting organizations on how they can de-risk their business and improve their resiliency posture through risk assessments and creation of frameworks in physical security, business continuity, and information security. He has worked extensively in the APAC region and assisted clients across sectors of BFSI, retail, telecom, and global conglomerates. Over to you, Mitesh. Thank you.
Thanks, Madhura. A very, very warm welcome to all the participants that have been with us for almost 2 hours now. We move to the third panel discussion, and I'm very much privileged to welcome all the panelists that we have today. So with us, today we have Neeti Malik from Concentrix. We have Padma Shri Prasad from, we call her fondly Shri, from Barclays. We have Mompia Saha from EXL. We have Deepak Singh, very well-known name in the world of BCM from Gorisco. We have Seema Verma from Accenture, and we have Padmavati Uttavar from one leading IT company. I'll go one by one, but before I start, this is a topic of resilience that we have come to after covering Intel security, and a topic which we cannot ignore, right? Pandemic is, I'm not going to beat around the bush about pandemic, but pandemic was one incident we cannot say that, right? We have not done that. Sorry, is there an echo? Only I can hear it.
Yes.
Yeah, there is some noise, background noise.
Okay. Never mind, it's back on track. So what I'm going to do is, on a personal note, I have a wonderful wife and 2 little daughters and a helper and I stay in a house with 4 females, right? So I'm used to be surrounded with women, and today in my panel, I'm surrounded with women apart from Deepak sir. So let's do this thing. We'll start one by one with the session, okay? In no particular order, but I'm going with Neeti ma'am, you first. I'll introduce each panelist one by one and then take a question for each one of you. So we'll begin with Neeti ma'am, you. So Neeti ma'am has been a global leader in the world of business resilience as well as crisis management. She has been working with Concentrix for the last 7 years and overall has about 25 years of experience in the world of BCM, where she has established BCM frameworks, crisis management frameworks for Fortune 500 companies. On a certification note, she has completed CBCP, BCCS, also a lead implementer, certified lead implementer in ISO 45001 and ISO 20000. She is currently the member of CII National Committee of IT and ITS, and also serves as the board member at BCI Delhi chapter. So Neeti ma'am, what I would like to hear from you specifically would be around, what do you, so let's start with what we said, right? So we'll begin with resilience itself. So what, when you hear the term resilience, just let's spill the beans about what does resilience mean to you or your organization if you want to. And going specifically, are there any particular lessons that from crisis scenarios that you have experienced personally or professionally as part of an organization that you would like to highlight and draw out, where women have significantly contributed and changed the way the crisis was managed or handled? Yeah, over to you, Neeti ma'am.
Thank you so much, Mitesh. And at the outset, a big thanks to the organizers of WISER, an amazing forum of women leaders. It's indeed an honor sharing the stage with such amazing leaders. To me, when I talk about resilience, it's all about the ability to cope with the ups and downs and bounce back from the challenges, being able to bend a little, but not break. The global pandemic has definitely put us as individuals through rigorous resilience tests. For many of us, it was a rude awakening, trust me. Same goes for all organizations, I guess, who go through the crisis. Gone are the days when having a plan in place will avert the event was, considered. Organizations that once felt immune to certain risks now understand that today's risks are not contained to a specific sector and can often be unpredictable and unimaginable. So for me, I would say at the personal front, I would say the lessons learned are create your own support system. Your family and friends help you to stay sane. Take ownership. That's very, very important. Have open, transparent communication and ignore the noise and usually the clutter created by social media misinformation. We had loads of it during the pandemic. Focus on physical and emotional well-being, because if you are sane, that's how you support the ecosystem, you support the organization you work for. Look at the big picture. That's very important, because with a microscopic picture, you can't really support the organization. Stay optimistic and focus on the future. With the right efforts and support, this too shall pass.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being covering up the entire snapshot in 3 minutes of time. So I really like the 3 points you said. You should have a support system, because people who manage crisis day in, day out, they need to talk something other than risk when they come back home, right? So that's something which I like. And social media, that definitely has been a bigger disruptor, I would say, in the minds of people, in the common people who only believe news. So news always, I would say, tries to confuse people then rather than comfort them. So I've always been a firm believer on that. So thanks, Neeti ma'am, for that one. With that, we move to Seema ma'am. We'll move to you. Just a brief introduction about Seema ma'am. So Seema ma'am is currently serving as the head of business services in Accenture. 26 years of experience, 13 with the Indian Navy, and 13 with the corporate world. Her role typically entails on her to work with BCM professional. Vendor risk management is under her portfolio, as well as supply chain management. She has done CBCP, ISO 22301 LA, BCCE, and ISO 27001 LA as well. On a personal note, Seema enjoys reading, as well as spending time with her family. So follows what Neeti ma'am has already told. And she's a firm believer that business continuity is the way forward. So Seema ma'am, over to you. My question to you would be around, typically, because this is a women forum, right? So based on your experience, can you cite some examples where you can say, are women more resilient and better multitaskers or crisis managers by default? That's what we are trying to hear from you. So over to you, Seema ma'am.
Oh, my answer to that is
yes,
not a no. Okay, that is a yes, big yes. Thanks, Kunal, for inviting me for this esteemed panel, and it was a great pleasure to hear all the panelists in this WISER 2022. We hope we have this relationship going forward as well. Coming to your question, why I said the answer is a resounding yes, is you can look around us. Even if you take the recent example, I know pandemic we have spoken a lot, but for whichever country has shown themselves to be the best most successful in handling the pandemic had women leaders. And the Forbes magazine had brought out this comment that every single leader of every single country that managed the pandemic most successful was a woman. So it's not me who's saying that, it's Forbes magazine who brought it out in 2021. And just to elaborate on this a little more, let's just take 5 top qualities of what a crisis manager should have. Okay, let's just top. I know there may be many, but if we just take top qualities or skills, so one being, say, collaborative. The crisis manager has to be collaborative, adaptable, tough decision maker, creative. Okay, now let's pose that with women. Okay, a woman can be highly collaborative compared to men. Okay, they can be friendly and they can be assertive as well. So in my own team, when I need some work to be done, which needs really good collaboration across the teams I pull out my women in the team and ask them to do it. No bias, but this is my experience. They are good and they are fast in collaborating. They are also adaptable. They know how to approach a situation with different perspectives. They know how to think. They can think out of the box and become adaptable. They can change if required. They can improvise if required. There are numerous examples of, we can see the women working at home who do that. Day-to-day problems they solve by improvising and being adaptable to a situation. They are not strict in their minds. And then coming to tough decision making, this is very much against the mindsets, right? That women can't be tough decision makers. So if you see what you need to be a tough decision maker during a crisis, you have to be cool-headed. Okay, only a person who can be cool-headed can take tough decisions, or only a person who can be a good listener, okay, and be inclusive can take tough decisions. And that is where women is really, really good at. And of course, creativity. They can think out of the box, like I mentioned earlier. They can come up with great ideas and find new solutions. Every time you're in a problem-solving situation, you always need women to come up with great ideas. I have examples in my own team doing that. And I have myself given really out of the box where people initially stand up and say, yeah, what are you saying? Is that possible? I said, yeah, this is possible if we try, we need to take that risk. And that works, right? That always works. So, this is what I'm saying. So women are definitely good and better crisis man. I'm not saying men are not, okay? We can't just get into another side of mindsets now, but women are. I mean, you can't take you can't have a mindset that, this kind of a role women can't play. Not like that.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I really attest a couple of points here. We had the New Zealand Prime Minister is a classical example.
Yeah.
She had received a lot of accolades for how she managed the crisis. At the same time, I like the way you broken down the parameters or the attributes women naturally have. I would say definitely much more adaptive, much more tough decision maker. On a personal front, also they are much more collaborative and they know how to get the work done. So a great insight to that. With that, I move to my next panelist. I'll move to Shri, Padma Shri Prasad. I'll move to Shri. Okay, so just a quick introduction about Shri. A very fond smile she has. So everybody who knows Shri. Okay, Shri is currently the VP Resilience at Barclays. Overall, 29 years of experience with 15 years in the BCM domain. Shri has worked extensively with corporates such as GSK, Thomson Reuters being a very large stint that she had, and VMware. I met her when she was working at Thomson Reuters, if I'm not wrong. She's a firm believer that BCM is not a one-off activity. She promotes BCM as a way of life. And if anybody is in Bangalore, she would be happy to take you out for coffee. Okay, so Shri, my question to you would be, we have seen that it is heartening that more and more women we are seeing in leadership roles in security and resilience. Are you satisfied with that progress, or do you believe there could be much more that we as a community can do? I'll give a very classical example. even the BCI had Women in Resilience just started about a year and a half back, if I'm not wrong, 2 years maximum, if I'm not wrong. So this is almost, they have been in business for last 20 years. So just bring your perspective to it, and what else can we do to have more women, especially in the resilience domain? Over to you, Shri.
Yeah. Thank you, Mitesh. It always excites me when I have to be part of these kind of panels and is surrounded by women who think alike. Yes, women are definitely, breaking, coming out of their cocoons, stepping out of the kitchen, taking up roles that we haven't thought of in the past. And it's really good to see that, there is an awakening within the women, that they need to do more than what they perceive of themselves. But at the same time, I wouldn't say that, it is a very great progress. We do see people stepping into, maybe as a business continuity analyst or, administrator, coordinator. But as they grow up the corporate ladder, somewhere there is a lot of inhibition within the woman itself, and probably it's because of a lot of sexism that exists in our society, in our homes, and even in our own minds. Even if you have a husband who's very supportive, you sometimes feel that you are limited to do only this. You do not want to go and do things, even if you are capable. I think there is a lot of pressure on the way we've been brought up, that it is difficult to break barriers and move. And also there are situations where, however men speak that, we need to promote women, we need to, give them, ensure they are an equal roles. Somewhere I feel that, the man still feels a woman should be 2 steps behind him. It may not be in all cases, but definitely this exists. And this could be one of the reasons why we are seeing people, women coming into roles, they do not stay there for long. It becomes an issue of, work-life balance. What happens when I start, growing up in my career, I become a VP, I become a director, then how do I balance my work life? What do I do with my family, my husband, my children, my pets, whatever it is? How do I, the guilt starts setting into ourselves. And I think that needs to break. That needs to break. And if the change can happen, it can happen only from the woman who wants to bring about the change. If I need to grow, I need to tell myself, I need, I have to work ways out, break barriers, and then move ahead. So that thing needs to happen, which is still not the way it should be. Definitely there is a change, but not a change that, we can all speak about and be very proud about.
I'll just endorse that with one line. So my wife also works for a larger bank here, and they had, all larger banks are into diversity big time this time. So a lot of programs around diversity, and she was telling me there's a question answer going on, and she gave only one line answer. There's about how do we do diversity, what should we do at work, and I think we are looking short-sighted. If we start diversity at work, diversity should start at home.
Yes.
It should start rightly. When your kid asks for a toy, a boy can ask for a toy which is a kitchen set, and a girl can ask for a Superman T-shirt as well. So that's where we are. Great. Thanks for your perspective as well. Okay, next I move to Mompia. Again, Mompia, a good old friend, Mompia Saha. She has been, I'll just give a quick introduction about her. So Mompia has been almost 8 years plus with EXL. She's currently serving as the Senior Assistant Vice President and the Global Business Continuity Leader for EXL, performing different risk management roles and managing the entire life cycle of BCM, right from crisis management, ITDR, and testing and exercises. She's also responsible of compliance to all these standards such as ISO 22301, 27001, PCI DSS, SOC 2, HIPAA, to name a few. On a personal note, she has been she has won the BCI India and South Asia Continuity and Resilience Award on the professional front. So congrats, Mompia, on that one. Mompia, my question to you would be, tell me your journey about, share your own experience on how to excel in a professional career. You have a very, you have been in the industry for a long time. At the same time, how did you establish the stepped way of going up, and how do you give this confidence to other female leaders who are, or female professionals who are looking up to move ahead in their value chain?
Hey, thanks first of all, Mitesh. I just wanted to check, am I loud and clear? I thought there was some disturbance in my mic. All right, great. First of all, it's been an incredible session since morning, and I'm getting so inspired by listening to so many leaders. The time has been so much worth it. So thank you, first of all, to all the leaders who spoke in the morning and having me here. Mitesh, when I look back at my personal journey, I think there has been certain distinctive areas where I feel those have been instrumental to me, right? And we all have our own journey. So some of these may resonate with the other forum members, some may not. But I like to transparently share, we could all learn from each other. The first thing for me always has been get the work done. Prepare well, be brave and bold in your decisions, go all out to find ways and means to deliver the outcomes. That's as simple as that. There's no complications around it. Now, you don't want to be the person who's constantly looking at why things cannot be done. There are so much constraints, budget constraints, resource constraints, personal constraints. We women are naturally equipped to handle most of these constraints quite well. So we can do it at our workplace also. We need to be that confident. So if you are looked at somebody who can deliver at workplace, you will certainly grow. And one of the things that I've been a strong proponent also has been that if we demand equal role, pay parity, equal opportunities with our male colleagues, then we also have to be capable and we have to be prepared to do equal work. So we can't be discounted basis on gender. We should not give that discount to ourselves, first of all. Then the others will follow. So in that sense, there has been so many times where I would possibly have been the only women in a forum, in a meeting, or in that, for that matter, in teams sometimes. And we've heard so many of my other colleagues speak the same since morning. But that's all right. We've earned our chair in that meeting, in that room, because of our capabilities. So our opinions matter, and our, the value that we bring to the table is appreciated. So let's not gender discount the capabilities that we bring to work. So that has been one of the first mantras, and I keep going back to it whenever I'm in a difficult situation.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mitesh, you were saying something?
No, good. I was just saying yes.
Yeah. And the second one, very important, is to build the support ecosystem. Now, it's often very aspirational to think that we can be the lone winners, but that is in general never the case, in my opinion. A big contributor to our success is our families, our friends, our mentors, very importantly, our teams in offices. If we don't invest time and energy in all of them, it's difficult to have a sustained long-term success. So personally, I always, reach out to these people, try and spend some quality time. It is okay in distress times to go back and seek some guidance. I don't think that there should be a hesitance to say that, I need help. It's okay. Seek the guidance, learn from it, and move ahead. And this is the ecosystem that will help you grow. And very interestingly, by the way, in my career and in my life, most of these folks have been men. Whether it's my father, my husband, my father-in-law, very interesting there, the mentors and leaders, they have all ensured that, whenever I'm going wrong, they will guide me, encourage me when things are not right to move ahead. So hats off and thank you to all the men who are unbiased to the gender and who are, driving a gender neutral world and workplaces. And my final one for the team today, I just want to keep it quick, be a lifelong learner. The industry is changing fast. The business strategies are evolving faster, and the world 10 years down the line will be different. What worked for us a decade earlier doesn't work today. So there is no reason for us to believe that what we are doing today will also be applicable, for years down the line. Hence, it's very important for us as professionals to constantly evolve and, learn these new technologies. If I don't know, I may not be the master of all the skill sets and the technologies, but I need to know what are they. Remember a time, and most of, hopefully the resilience professional will relate, 10 years ago, or a couple of years ago at least, it was all about managing geophysical risks, hydrological risks, man-made people unrest, etc. It shifted when we came to the IT disaster recovery part, where a lot of cloud-based technologies came into being, right? Today, as I speak to you, there's so much focus on cyber resilience, on the geopolitical, things that are evolving. which means that for all of these, we constantly have to, also polish our knowledge around them. So hence, I personally always take out time to read through it, reach out to people who are experts in the field, and sometimes they are younger, or the younger generation in the workplace, and that's absolutely okay. I'm there to learn, reach out, and polish my own skills. So be open to that learning all the time, because that is certainly going to help. Now, if all three things that I spoke about, they are basics, but I have strongly believed from my own experience that they work and they help you have a sustained and successful relationship at workplace and with people around.
Yeah, I think I think 2 or 3 points, which is definitely, think yourself as equal. I think one mindset change has to be done is that there is nothing else, that you are equal to others. Rely on a support system, internal as well as external. It can be anything, and definitely lifelong learning is a good example where you don't stop learning, especially when pandemic has taught everybody to change the way of working. You should not stop the way of learning as well. Okay, the next we move to Padmavati Uttavar. Okay, I'll just quickly introduce you. So she has been working in an IT giant, almost 11 years plus of experience. On a professional front, she is CBCP and pursuing PhD in BCM. Very rare to hear. She's pursuing PhD in BCM. She is one of the top performers in a lot of other things on a personal front. She has won awards in professional life as a star performer. She participates in Toastmasters, a public speaker, fashion shows, if I may use that word. Is it correct? She also is a yoga instructor and a purple belt in martial arts. She had a very long profile. Sorry, I had to cut you on that one. So just going back, I mean, for you, Padma, specifically, since you have done so many things, right? So I would ask you personally, and then you can do it for the entire women community in a generic way. What differentiates you to do so much of activities, right? You have been both on a professional as well as personal front. So what differentiates you? What are the attributes that allow you to do so many things? And how women bring about a different perspective, a unique thought process, both at work as well as in their personal life. So over to you, Padma, share some own experiences on that.
Thank you very much, Matesh, for asking that question and a beautiful introduction of myself. Hello, everyone. And it's a great pleasure and honor to be a part of WISER 2022 and this panel discussion with accomplished women leaders and men in the room who are supporting us. Thank you so much. So what differentiates me? To answer in a very simple sentence, I would say I have a very strong why associated to everything I do in life. I would like to share my personal story. I belong to a very renowned families of Maharashtra. As a family culture, we have always taught to give back to the society. And I have a very touching story as of my parents' sacrifices. So I always had one thing in my mind, that I have to bring more pride to my parents. We donated hospital to the government service to provide lifelong free treatments to the patients, and one person along with the patient gets free food and accommodation. So since my childhood, I felt that huge responsibility to give back to the society and carry the legacy of my family in doing that. Being a very spiritual person myself, I feel in the field of business continuity it's a destiny, and I have much more to contribute and many opportunities in the way I can contribute towards the society. So I took up the PhD program in business continuity. I strongly believe that each woman have emotional and personal connect to their actions and everything that they do. Stronger is the why, stronger is the strength to unleash the power within. Because this women this is the way women bring a different perspective and unique perspective or thought process in whatever they do in life. I started to give challenge to myself, like exploring my own strength and trying out different areas, and to ensure that I represent women who is very strong intellectually, physically, mentally, spiritually, and financially. I'm proud to say that my success today is the outcome of the support of wonderful women leaders around, starting with my mother, recently women CEOs who believed in the strength that I possess, and from the corporate side, another from the glamour industry who was because I was part of the Miss India, the International Glamour Project Miss India 2021. So I've got trained from the top national and international mentors. I got different perspective to everything. I started looking at things differently. And now I feel that it's my turn to encourage all the women around me to explore their own potential, to ensure that their thoughts and action shows no boundaries. So I believe that let's have the dream, which where we can break the stereotype. Let's break the bias together. So my wishes to all the women leaders and happy Women's Day in advance.
Thanks, Padma. I think I like the one statement that you made. Stronger the why, stronger is the passion to complete it. And I think that is the driving force for anybody, especially for women. Stronger the why can be an emotional connect as well, and it should not be discounted. Even if it's an emotional comment. Moving on to the last panelist on the table, Mr. Deepak Singh, the second odd man out, if you can understand that joke.
You are right.
Okay, so Deepak and I have been good friends, knew Deepak since 2016 when he gave presentation to open his company. So introducing Deepak is a great pleasure. President and CEO of Gorisco Solution, chair of BCI Bangalore chapter. Before that, has worked about 13 years in Honeywell Technology Solution. A very, very well-renowned and respected member of the BCM fraternity in India as well as regionally, and a number of projects in Middle East and Africa as well. So Deepak, I'm going to ask you a tough question. Currently, because you have been serving different geographies, right? Not just India, but Middle East and Africa, and working with BCI. So are organizations paying lip service to diversity generally, or is something tangible or concrete being done typically, especially to have more and more women in the BCM function itself? So because you work with different organizations, this may be a right question for you, and be as candid as possible. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Mitesh. Thanks for inviting me. And it's a pleasure to be among so many women in the panel. Okay. Yes, I'm an odd man out, but I think that's what someone was saying, that this is diversity, right? So let's see that. When you say lip service, I don't think that, we can call it as lip service. No doubt a lot of focus is being given to promote the diversity, no doubt about it. But unfortunately, what we have seen is, in my experience, a lot of these organizations have made very little progress. And believe me, some have even gone backward. I mean, they started well, but somewhere down the path, they have actually lost the track. And this is happening, right? And this is not only in India or some specific geography. This is happening across the countries, across the industries. You can take examples across everywhere. Having said that, I think there are some good industries and renowned industries who have made very good progress, especially when we talk about the diversity, not only at the lower level, but even at the executive level. We have seen many women leaders being included in the executive teams. I remember there is a McKinsey report which talks about, I think it is titled Diversity Wins, which came out in 2020. And that report came out of the survey that they have done in about 15 countries and more than 1,000 large companies, not small companies, large companies. And the report said that wherever they found that the organization has good number of diverse candidates, the chances of having them more profitable than the average that they wanted to achieve was 25% higher. Right, so you can understand that how they are trying to correlate the power of women in this whole, play of the organizational operations or decision making. Right, it's very important, no doubt about that. And in the same report, actually, on the one side, we see that there is almost 1/3 of companies who do not have even a single woman in their executive board. Right, not even a single member. All are men. But on the other side, there are organizations in the last 5 years who have increased their presence of women leadership almost 4 times. And this is not a joke, right? In 5 years, expanding it to 4 times, it's not a small thing, it's huge. But I think the critical point is much more than that. Is diversity only good enough? Absolutely no. What is more important is to ensure that once you have these diverse candidates, how do you take care of the inclusion? Now, what exactly is inclusion? It means how does your organization value the contribution, the presence, and the perspectives of these women? That is more important. Not just that, I have so many candidates as women in the organization and that's enough. No, you have to ensure that they are included in your organizational operations or decision making, all those factors. Unfortunately, I would say that, while we see that there is some good progress made on the diversity factor, but the representation of women, they are still underrepresented, no doubt about it, right? And I'm sure that most of our panel members would agree to that. Like you were saying, Mitesh, I think last 1-2 years we have seen, DRI coming up, BCI coming up with Women in Resilience Forum. And similarly, DRI also has Women in Business Continuity Management, WBCM, what they call it as. Even in BCI chapters, like I had for Bangalore, and similarly, I have seen, the number of women leaders have increased, and then their participation has also increased, no doubt about it. One thing that I think we should be a little careful is how to balance this whole thing, right? We have seen, and all of you would have seen that example, that sometimes what we have seen is, someone was talking about the pay parity. Yes, that is a challenge, no doubt about it. Then how do you make them, give them much more flexible work life? That is also important. But then we have seen that sometimes due to, or just for, because, the HR and top leadership, they have some target of promoting diversity, some good men candidates are sort of, pushed back, and then the female candidates are brought forward, even if they are not capable. I think that is something that would even demean the women's credibility. I would say that should not be done. And of course, because if you do not take them together, then I think the maturity will be only at the number of diverse candidates that you have. It will never mature to the inclusion part. Inclusion will come when the men and women, everyone accepts each other, saying that yes, we have to work together and take it forward, right? So those things need to be done. And because one thing is also, we have seen a couple of people, they sort of try to avoid women candidate, thinking that okay, they would be busy in their homework, home related works, and they would be also someone who might not be flexible enough to travel to different geographies and all. I think all those thought process have to be pushed back, and then women should come forward proactively, and then we should see that it moves from diversity to inclusion. That's very important to be taken care of.
Thank you, Deepak. I think I like the 2 points. I think inclusion is the bigger point. Just not get diversity, but make sure their thoughts have been heard and executed.
Absolutely.
And if we can ever, this is a good point you brought about. I would love to see that report sometime. If you can link profitability with women on board, it's a great point to say, because at the end of the day, every business is working for profit. If you can bring that thought process, it changes the context completely.
Sure, okay. I'll share that. It is called as diversity wins.
That's a very good point to bring about, actually. So now on that note, let's do one quick round. So what I thought we'll do is different from other panels, is because we are the resilience panel, we should bring about something different. What we thought is I want to hear from the panelists one key complementary attribute or characteristic or value system along with resilience that today everybody should have to succeed in their professional career as well as personal careers. So we'll go with the same order which we started with. So we'll start with Neeti ma'am, you first. Okay, one key attribute or value system associated complementary with resilience that you would like to give, and maybe a one quick liner about that. That would be great to hear.
I would stick to something like positivity and optimism. When the path ahead is uncertain, people turn to the most positive ones to help them gain clarity and a grounded hope for a better future. As a crisis and resilience leader, they want someone with a positive vision who's confident about tackling the problems. And we all face yet courageous enough to confront uncomfortable truths and admit what they do not know. Stay positive, be optimistic.
Yeah. Thanks. That's great to hear. Seema ma'am, over to you.
Yeah. So from my side, I would encourage being empathetic and truly human. In the field of resiliency and business continuity, you can make best of plans. Okay, you can have best of preparations around technology, infrastructure, etc., etc. But nothing will work if your people are not willing to work. So your people are very, very important element in your chain of events. And it is very important that we are empathetic towards their requirements, their needs, especially during crisis. And what I encourage is that if we invest in people during a non-crisis period, they will be willing workers during the crisis. And we have seen it. I have seen it myself. Not just here when I was in the Navy, I have done that. Being empathetic with your people, knowing about what they need, what their requirements are, and they are willing to, let their lives feel. Same way here itself, we have seen it even during pandemic that, people had options to remain sick at home and not log in. Okay, they had that option. And if they are sick, they can take sick leave and they could take caregiving leaves and take, not log in. But because we have encouraged people and leaders to be empathetic, take care of them during when they need it, all our people were willing to log in even when they could log in. Even one day sick and then next day they are logging in and working. We don't encourage that they are sick and they log in. But what I'm trying to say is, if we show that empathy, they will respond willingly, and that is what works during crisis. We need people.
Correct. Yeah. So I use this line: superheroes are made during crisis.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the way. So great point. Shri, you want to take one attribute?
Yes, so I would look at creativity, and the reason why I say creativity is BCM or resilience is a subject that is not easy to sell. You cannot sell the concept, you cannot sell the subject, you cannot expect people to say, wow, yeah, is it what it is? So I'm ready to do whatever you want, because it is a lot to do with, you're dealing with mindsets of the people. You're not dealing with people, it's the mindset. And even to this day, as we speak in umpteen panels, talk about many things, people still prefer to be reactive rather than being responsive, which means we want to wake up after it has happened and do not want to be prepared for something that could happen. So I think creativity brings in a lot of change, because it tickles people. And I always prefer connecting life and business continuity, because there isn't much difference. So if I am resilient in my personal life, I will apply resilience everywhere in every walk of life, right? Yeah. So I need to be creative, and I do not believe in making standard presentations wherein you have a lot of data or statistics. No, make it simple, make it, something very jolly, just pick up people, just ask them to talk about something and connect it, find a way to connect it back to, business continuity. People will relate much better. And I think we need to keep refurbishing the foundation, the basics we need to keep touching upon. No point talking to the leaders all the time. I think we need to start off bottom up, wherein, every employee has his or her foundation strongly based on BCM. And only then, the individual and the organization will be a resilient organization. And I think it has to be one voice that we need to echo, which is resilience. Yeah. No, and creativity does wonders. And I've done that.
Yeah, true. So somebody was saying, let's use humor in resilience, because it is too boring a topic, too negative a topic, right? So that let's creativity in that sense. Great. Yeah. Okay, moving to Mompia, your thought on one attribute or one value system that you would like to say.
I think I'll go with innovation. In the times, and I think Seema somewhere alluded to it, that in BCP and resilience, no matter how much you prepare, right, you can always expect the unexpected. So there are so many times you just have to come up with a solution that you possibly is not historically tested, but you innovate right at the moment, find out new ways to do it. That's one part of it. Sometimes, it also creates opportunities. Because when you have an innovative mindset and you try to do things in a newer way, in a more effective way, you can create solutions that can eventually, help your clients and your other, key stakeholders or interested parties, as we like to call, utilize and benefit from them. It's worked for us in our organization in many ways. And hence, I'm a very, very strong proponent that innovation should be a part of the BCM and the resilience framework.
On that note, we should remember their team won the BCI Innovation Award as well, if I'm not wrong. Correct? Yes.
And by the way, that was something we created during the pandemic.
Correct.
You know, it was an analytics-based solution for forecasting the pandemic waves. Okay. And we benefited from it during the preps, and a lot of clients appreciated. Yeah.
Great. Moving to Padmavati, your thoughts on one attribute?
I strongly believe in courage. Courage comes when you know yourself, when you know your plans, and when you know that you are going to execute. So that helps to break the barriers. And as Mompia said, expect the unexpected. It happens in business continuity and business resilience. So it's not a 9-to-5 job where we just go through certain process, but there's so many things which are coming up to us which are unaware, we are not aware about those instances, or so we have to take a lot of courageous decisions at the right time so that we can excel in those. So I strongly believe that courage is something that we have to be and have in the field of business continuity resilience.
Yeah, great. And then it has to come from within, that's an important point. It is not just being courageous to show, but courageous from within. That's a good point. Yeah. Lastly, we have Deepak sir, your thought on an attribute that you would like to
Yeah, I think I'll pick up caring and kindness. Someone said that in the business of war, the role of women is really to maintain normalcy and ensure cultural continuity. This was said by a playwright, a renowned playwright. See, world has seen the power of women. I think someone was giving an example about how COVID situation was handled by women leaders in different countries. No doubt about it. Even during difficult situations, what we tend to do, we tend to look forward to the company of our mothers or sisters or wives, right? Because I think that is the caring and kind nature that we look forward to when we are in such situation. I mean, everyone knows Mother Teresa, right? No better example than her of how a woman could be caring and kind-natured, right? So that is something that I would like to pick and then attribute to all the women, and hats off to them.
Yeah. Okay, so once again, thanks everybody. I'll just take one last round, a 2-minute quick round. A quick one-liner to summarize. That could be a punchline that you would like to give to everybody. Not more than 30 seconds. We start with the same order. Neeti ma'am.
Stay strong and stay positive always.
Great. Seema ma'am.
Accept women as they are. They are a success package on their own.
Good. Shri?
Yeah, so I say pessimism is the new optimism. Be as pessimistic as possible to have the most optimistic plans that you can depend on.
Correct. Mompia?
See, mine's very simple. As in life, so in resilience, right? Hope for the best, plan for the worst, and still be prepared to get surprised.
Great. Padmavati?
Stronger is your why, stronger is the strength to unleash the power within.
Yeah, great point. That was bottom. And lastly, Deepak sir.
Yeah, for all the women, I think women need to come forward more proactively. So just drop all your hesitations, come forward, and let the world know that you are best. Okay. I will end with this famous quote, which says that if you want something to be said, ask a man to do that. But if you want something to be done, ask a woman to do that. And that is the difference that you guys can create. So hats off. Thank you so much again.
Yeah. Okay, so a great panel discussion, very, very crisp, all the points very well point out. I really want to thank each and every one of you to give your time here. As I've said, I am learning from my kids. I'm learning from my daughters now. So this is a time where we have to change the roles where, I would say diversity, inclusion, resilience, whatever, it starts at home. So that would be my one pointer that go back. Let's not implement this as an org policy, organization policy. It has to start somewhere, because everybody has brought this point that if they are courageous from heart, ambitious right from the onset, learning to make mistake and not be afraid still right from their childhood, things will be much better and we'll have a much more better world. On that note, thanks everybody. Thanks to all female participants and Deepak sir. A great session. Over to you, Madhura, and closing remarks for closing remarks.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you to all our panelists for sharing your views and experiences and your take on resilience. And thank you, Mitesh, for moderating the session. So we are moving towards the end of the event, and I would like to invite Colonel Pradhan to deliver the end notes, please.
Yeah, thank you. And that was great discussion, Mitesh, and the third panel. So I'd just like to take about 5 minutes to summarize the day's proceedings very quickly. And we started off by a very interesting keynote address by General Sharma, where he talked about the qualities that women bring to the table are empathy and ethics amongst the others that he mentioned. And he closed on a note saying that, which was echoed by many panelists thereafter, that each one should mentor one. So each woman leader in women, intel, in security, intel, EHS, resilience should take the onus of mentoring, sponsoring one young entrant into the field so that they are helped. Thereafter, we had a very interesting keynote address by Rebecca, who spoke about the challenges for women because they are always seen as the primary caregivers in the family. And in India, they need to be more inclusive. Then we had a panel discussion on Intel, which was moderated by Aparna. We had a very interesting panel discussion where Shraddha spoke. She's an entrepreneur in the field of Intel, where she spoke about how critical mass develops in an organization once certain number of women are into it. And women need to assert themselves more to make sure that their value is realized. And then Ila said about inclusive team performance, how they can collaborate better, and networking is really important for women. Nikita spoke about the ability to perform and to make your presence felt in an organization and not be just as seen as a mute spectator in a discussion. Samantha spoke about social responsibility, so how women are socially responsible, ethical, acceptable, how they are more creative, and how they can make a place a happier place to work. And she also said that women make a difference everywhere and they need to be brave and fight for their place on the table and not ask for inclusivity. Denise spoke about women supporting each other, building networks, not competing with each other, and giving good feedback to each other so that they can sponsor each other and not just indulge in male bashing. Shilpa spoke about interviewing and how not to focus on the gender of the interviewer, how to keep the job interviews simple, free-flowing, prepare well, and focus on hard skills and soft skills equally. Bhavdeep spoke about how it was important to prove it to them and not to get discouraged by comments of others which are disparaging. And she said that women are better communicators, so they can do better. We had a exposition of our women's safety handbook, which like Atreya and others mentioned, is available to all and sundry. And then we had an excellent demonstration by Atreya on our AI assisted Intel platform. The second panel discussion, which I moderated, we had focusing on women in security and loss prevention, where Vashita spoke about how there was a perception of security and now it needs to be more acceptable. Women need to be more acceptable. Things are changing and we need to start consciously removing these stereotypes. Rebecca again touched upon the issues with retention primarily in the security industry, where women need to be nurtured and mentored so that they stay firm in the industry by giving them flexibility in schedules, looking after the safety issues. And she also closed by saying that women can do more than men. Rekha talked about how opportunities are now available to women in security. They are all equally capable. We must ensure equality and focus on merits and skill sets. Sanjay talked about how increasing academic qualifications, certifications are enabling more women to come into the security field. Technology helps them immensely, and also mindsets are changing, equal opportunities are being provided. And some of the values that women bring to the table, in addition to what men do, are empathy and sensitivity. Sahima talked about how women entering the field must have mentors and leaders should be seen and heard. And women need to hold each other's hands. And she talked about the importance of networking. And she also said that we must be assertive enough and capable enough to say that we want the job because we know the job and not because we are women. Jaya talked about how there's a need to have more supportive bosses, both male and female, and also said how technology has enabled women to bring more to leadership roles, and gender neutral technology has really enhanced the capability of women in the field. Sudhir talked about success and demonstrating successes. So because nothing succeeds like success, so when you show successful women in the field of security to others, it brings up more. And women also, again, he said, have great empathy and personal connects, and he gave some beautiful examples of how his organization is recognizing this fact. The last discussion, which was by Mitesh, was on women in the field of resilience and business continuity, where again we had some really illuminating remarks by some. May I request all of you to mute yourselves, please? Yeah. Niti spoke about how you need to create your own support system, how to have transparent communication, and how to focus on your own physical and mental well-being. Seema Verma talked about collaborative efforts between women, how women should prove that they are adaptable because they can improvise better and they are better at problem solving. Padmashri talked about how we need to break the biases in society itself and to prove ourselves, prove women equally capable. Mompia spoke about how to cherish the values that women bring to the table and also need to invest a lot of time in the ecosystem, that is the work, friends, family, and seek guidance whenever there is a requirement. Padmavati spoke about how we need to use the values that our families give us to enable us to do better, and stronger the vibe, the more passionate we are. And Deepak Singh spoke about how diverse organizations are more profitable. Studies have proved so. But at the same time, he talked about how there is a need to have a balance and make sure that we are getting everything right. So in sum, I think we had a great discussion on all the panels. We had some wonderful views. We had a great audience. And I would like to thank all of you who took out time on a busy working day to attend this half-day session. We will be having more such sessions in the future. We'll be having an event like this every year for sure. And thank you, Janil Sharma, for that excellent initial keynote address and the opening remarks. And I'd like to close on your remarks where you said that for the seniors of the industry, each one mentor one. I would also advise the youngsters, the new professionals, the new entrants to say that don't wait for somebody to reach out and mentor you. You reach out to the seniors in the organizations, reach out to seniors in the ecosystem. And the phrase for you, the takeaway should be each one reach one. So with that, thank you all for a wonderful panel discussions, wonderful event, being such a great audience, and more power to women. And I very strongly echo the theme for this year's International Women's Day, that is break the bias. Oh, I'm supposed to do it like this. Okay, break the bias. Yes, all of us on screen, let's just do it once. Okay. Thank you so much and have a great day ahead. Over to you, Madhura.
Thank you so much, Colonel Pradhan. So I'm really charged up after listening to all the three panels speak, and have taken my learning notes, and I'm sure everybody has. So I would like to, before ending, I would like to thank all the audience members who have stayed with us till the very end. I'm aware that there were very few technical glitches here and there, but I'm sure that we were able to move past that and enjoy the inspiring, powerful, refreshing, I think the adjective will go on, for the panel discussion jointly held by the moderators and the panelists. So before ending, few reiterations. Soft copy of the Women's Safety Handbook will be available at MidCat's website and LinkedIn page. Everyone is requested to visit the portal for downloading the complete handbook. Certificate of participation will be shared with all who have joined. Recording of the event will be on MidCat's YouTube channel. Brief summary report highlighting major takeaways will be uploaded on website and LinkedIn page. And if you would like to know more about MidCat's PRI services, please get in touch. You may avail a trial of our services. Last but not the least, a huge thank you to once again to all our association partners, WISER, Futuristic Security and Automation Technologies, Asia Risk Community, and Global Risk Community. Thank you so much, everyone.
But I
Have a
would like
wonderful
to
day
have
ahead.
the last word by saying thank you, Madhura, for such a wonderful effort. And to all of you who are listening, this is the first time she's doing this, and it was such a wonderful job that she's done, absolutely seamlessly and perfectly. So everyone, a round of applause for Madhura as well.
Thank you so much, sir. This really means a lot. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.